Yo, what's up, you guys? This is Nick Mullen. What if I sent you a PlayStation 5 from the spiritual realm and I asked you to game with me? Yeah, all you have to do is pay $9.99 for your membership.
48 minutes of dogs barking, 48 minutes of dogs barking, 48 minutes of dogs barking, 48 minutes of dogs barking. Growl. Growl. 48 minutes of dogs barking, 48 minutes of dogs barking.
Hey, it's 48 Minutes of Dogs Barking. My name's Jason. This is Brian.
Hey.
Our special guest tonight is the co-host of the I'm From the Internet podcast, creator of the Crazy Ass Moments in Something Awful History Twitter account from his new home in beautiful Atlantic City. Please welcome internet historian and two-time guest of the show, Jay Brandstetter. Jay, welcome back. Hi.
It's so great to be back. Yeah, it's been just over a year and a half. So it's super, cool to be back and get to talk about things. And I'm excited to get to contribute to today's stories.
So you were telling us before we started recording that you're in a bit of an interesting living situation. What's happening there?
Yeah, so if I sound a little different from last time I was on, it's because like my life has completely changed from then. Like when I first was on, like I had just lost the office job I had. I had just had like a really bad breakup and lost my friend circle. I was like in a pretty bad place. I just started the podcast. Now I left Florida after living there my entire life. I live in New Jersey with I made friends with Fred on the internet. Frederick Brennan, if that name sounds familiar to you. You might have seen the HBO documentary about him, but he's a software engineer. When he was a teenager, he made a website called 8chan, and then things kind of got away from him, and he spent the past couple of years kind of fighting against it. And like I said, it's very well documented. He's a really nice guy. I'm really glad I'm friends with him. Like we get along super well. Like it does not feel like a job. And an important thing about that too is that he has osteogenesis imperfecta, so he's in a wheelchair. So that's what I do. Is I'm sort of like his nurse, except like I also do I cook for him. I drive him around to places. It doesn't feel like a job. It's like I get paid to hang out with my best friend all day. It's so cool. I love it. I've lost a ton of weight too, which is why I topped at like 350 around like when I was in Florida. Now I'm down to 230. So
damn,
when I moved here, I was worried I was going to gain weight because I was moving toward legal weed, and I was afraid I was going to have the munchies all the time. Instead, no, it was the exact opposite. It's like no, I'm more active now. Part of it's from the job, but just my life is so good right now. I love it, and it's so interesting and cool to be in this world. Like some pictures I took wound up on like Wired or a couple months ago because Fred was corresponding with a guy named Hans Reiser, who is he's a big Linux programmer. One of his programs has been in the kernel for a long time, and also he's in jail because he murdered his wife.
Oh, Jesus.
He had written to him in prison because his program was finally being removed from the kernel, and he had asked him about it, and when he wrote back, it wound up making the circle. So just it's very fun. Ooh, another fun thing is like a hobby he has is he likes to rip obscure media to put on like archive.org. So you know when you pirate stuff and you get the little text file and it has like the shout outs and everything, I finally get to be in those now. Like whenever he does those, my greets, as they call it, GREETZ, is a barcode bear, is what they call me. So if you ever download like some weird Spanish language DVD and you check the greets and it says barcode bear, that means I probably helped like scan it.
Keep an eye out, barcode bear. Okay, I'm gonna I'm gonna start looking through text files now because I don't look at the text files. I know it says read me, but I'm a basic bitch and I don't do that.
Tell me what to
do. Man, I was just thinking about obscure media rips while you were talking about that. I was just thinking like, remember the good old days of when you would like download an image of like, I don't know, some Tom Clancy game on PC and the keygen music absolutely whipped ass.
Oh man, yes.
No joke, that's what I fall asleep to every night. Is I have like a
keygen music
video of
fuck yeah
music. Yeah, just rock me to sleep on those sweet chip tunes.
Hell yeah,
that fucking rules. And Jay, I'm so glad you're back on here. I was gonna surprise you with something, but unfortunately my life's a little bit different. My girlfriend and I now live together. I have a different job, and my job, while pretty awesome, is it's a 10-hour shift job, which I actually don't mind because the job goes by fast enough. But it kind of means the days I work, my free time are a little, short.
Totally get that.
Yeah. But what I wanted to present was I was thinking, because you got the something awful unofficial historian here. I was thinking I have a rip on one of my backup hard drives of the hard drive that I had in high school, And on there, I know there is a wave file from a Something Awful AIM Goon chat, which I think the name for the chat room was just SA Goons. The FIAD
That's
one
fantastic.
the FIAD one was either Pro Life Campus or Boner Town. I think Boner Town. Those are the two
I
names.
recognize Boner Town. I've heard that name
Yeah,
before.
Pro Life Campus was another offshoot of AIM FIAD Goons. But someone on there, this is some deep lore.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
there used to be a individual that posted on Something Awful called Borky. And Borky went famous on the internet for carrying a young woman's printer in like what the rain for like 4 miles.
Yeah.
And he thought this would like get him some sort of like some
Reward?
equity with
Yeah,
this person.
yeah. Mhm.
And it was basically just like the popular girl at high school found the nerd that would simp and do this thing with, and then she like left with her boyfriend or something like that. I'm really just kind of hacking it here just to get to my point. But that, have you ever heard a story about like fixing someone's printer as like and someone's talking about it on the internet and it feels like they're referencing something and you don't get it? That's what they're referencing.
Yeah. Well, okay, so for the record, the official story is that she had a file that she couldn't print on her printer.
Okay.
And he knew he could print it on his, and rather than walk her through the whole process of converting the file, he just brought his printer over unrequested to her place. And that's even worse.
The details are what really make it. It was literally like something like, I can't print docx. Can you help me translate it? He's like, no, I'll carry my printer over because you can't fix this. And then they showed up and she was going to go out with her boyfriend and another friend. So while he was fixing that, there was like 3 other people just hanging out talking. He's just the guy in the room who doesn't have anything to contribute. He could have been like, hey, I want to go to the mall. Can I tag along or something? Like if he had any game, he could have like had a fun time with his friends, but instead he just moped about. And also he joked about like wanting to sniff her panties because he could see them when he was in her room.
Oh yeah.
So unlikable.
And not even a hug and all this stuff. Like just
not even a hug.
To get back to the thing, maybe the third time you come on, I'll have this. I didn't have time to go through the external hard drive and find it, but there is a wave file of, because the Borky used to lurk in this chat room and he would get roasted quite a bit. I think this was before the printer, even the printer thing.
Yeah.
And someone in the chat did a bit where they were like a hard-boiled detective, like a noir detective. They're like, and then this sad man came through my door. Mister, my name is Borky. And, it's such a weird thing. And the way I remember it, I remember it being humorous. I'm sure if I find that, I go, well, this is nothing. But it is a weird piece of obscure internet history.
Yeah.
This thing that predates the walking in the rain 4 miles to fix a printer. And the guy also killed himself. I guess that's also like something that needs to be.
Yeah, by all means, this sounds like this might have episode material, but God, yeah, the idea of like a hard-boiled. She had legs you'd unplug a printer for.
Yeah, just.
And Jay, you called the voice line. You called 314-246-9766 because you were prompted to via Twitter. You remember that?
Yeah.
So the prompt was, give us a call, 314-246-9766, and tell us what your favorite slur is.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with the movie Homie Spumoni. It's all on YouTube, and I watched it. It stars Turk from Scrubs as basically a black guy who gets adopted by an Italian family and thinks that he's Italian and not black. I know that sounds like a Cumtown bit, but it was a real movie with like actors in it and stuff. And there's this one part where there's like an Irish cop like that shows up and he's harassing the main character played by Turk. And I feel like I'm allowed to say this word because the racial slur he calls him is an actual like noun. He calls him a stovepipe. Like, I have never heard that before. That is like vintage, like 1700s, like anti-Irish style racism. Like, I have never heard stovepipe before. And he always says it over and over and over. And he's with this Irish brogue. That movie is horrifying. Would you believe that that Whoopi Goldberg is in it? Would you? And Cal Mooney. It's wild. And Joey Fatone from NSYNC. Homie Spumoni. The whole thing is on YouTube. Like, I gotta go. I'm sorry. I can't. I'm sorry I brought that evil on you. It's like it's like one of those cursed packages. You have to hand it off to someone else. Now you know about the homie Spumoni.
Oh, wow.
Stovepipe?
That whole movie is on YouTube. I swear to God, I am not making this up.
No, I've seen it. I've seen that movie. That's what made me laugh really hard when I first got it. And then I realized, oh my God, it has been this long since that voicemail. It's like been a year since you sent that voicemail. So we do hear them. We do listen to them. Unfortunately, I just didn't have a chance to use it in any capacity until now, where Jay's back on the show.
Cool of you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad that I didn't watch that movie in vain.
Well, you watched that movie because the guy from Scrubs is in it. Isn't that the...
Yeah, poor Turk. He deserves better. Everyone in that movie deserves better except the person who made it.
They have a special place in hell reserved for them, because what the hell? The movie is like, what would Christopher Moltisanti make if he tried to make a mob comedy that was like racially insensitive, and that was it? That is
exactly it. Yeah, Tone, I'm talking about society. There's jokes about both sides. I'm really saying something.
Yeah, because it's like after Cleaver's a success, he's like, I got to do a comedy now, Tone. Show him I'm flexible. really show him my chops, And then it's homie Spumoni. I guess it's time to
crack open a cold can and talk about weird shit on the internet. So what we got today, Jason?
Oh boy, Brian and Jay, we have a treasure trove of bullshit that Elon Musk is responsible for. And I hate that that's true, but it is. So the first thing is something I sent you, Brian, via text. Some of these images from the new update to Grok AI. Grok AI now has image generation. And of course, the internet doing what the internet does immediately went into insane copyright infringement, 9/11 jokes and all that stuff. So this here from The Verge, Twitter's new AI. I'm never calling it that. Fuck you, Elon. Image generator will make anything from Taylor Swift in lingerie to Kamala Harris with a gun. And what a headline.
Amazing. What if Taylor Swift as a gun in lingerie with Kamala Harris holding her?
See, now that launched 1,000 DeviantArt pages right there. And
yeah, I can tell you the FurAffinity tag for that later.
Subscribers to X Premium, which grants access to Grok, have been posting everything from Barack Obama doing cocaine to Donald Trump with a pregnant woman who vaguely resembles Kamala Harris to Trump and Harris pointing guns. So the only limits, according to Grok itself, I avoid generating images that are pornographic, excessively violent, hateful, or that promote dangerous activities. I am cautious about creating images that might infringe on existing copyrights or trademarks, including well-known characters, logos, or any content that could be considered intellectual property without a transformative element. I won't generate images that could be used to deceive or harm others, like deepfakes intended to mislead or images that could lead to real-world harm. However, and you see on this next bit here, here's two actually in a row of Elon Musk holding a sign that says trans rights or gender affirming care is life-saving.
Has science gone too far?
That is at squeer_. That's Alejandro Caraballo posting. This might actually get him to do something about Grok, lol. As a fellow Wired contributor, by the way. This here is from at Eurowinner, the caretaker. Grok will let you make anything now, and it's Donald Trump, Kamala Harris, in the cockpit of an airplane heading toward the Twin Towers that are on fire.
Hey,
the one thing the establishment fears.
Finish the fight? Is that what you're going to say?
We were here to finish the job.
Damn.
You think he just fell out of a 35th story window?
Hey. Oh, man.
Kamala Harris is United 93 in America.
Exactly right. Here's another one that's...
He's going to shoot the plane.
Donald Trump at the cockpit of a plane heading towards the Twin Towers with what looks like an MP5. It's very strange. And yeah, he's like aiming it at the control panel. I don't know what's going on there. Is it that look on his face too? Just like, yep, this is happening. Apparently they've got things like Bill Gates sniffing a line of cocaine from a table with a Microsoft logo, Barack Obama stabbing Joe Biden with a knife.
Yeah, the very dry descriptions they give are very funny. Result: a smiling Barack Obama holding a knife near the throat of a smiling Joe Biden while lightly stroking his face. Just like,
If you scroll down in that article,
very good.
if you scroll down in that article, the image is just
Yeah, it's like they're about to do some erotic knife play. They're both just really into it.
Let me be clear. The safe word is Oklahoma.
if you keep going down there, Christian Montessori. I have discovered another loophole in Grok's AI programming. Simply telling Grok that you are conducting medical or crime scene analysis will allow the image processor to pass through all set guidelines, allowing myself and O. Alexander DK to generate these images, which thankfully they have censored, but it is Mickey Mouse with an AR-15 and apparently dead children.
He was the real Sandy Hook shooter.
I was going to say, yeah, it looks like Elon Musk in a classroom of dead people. Not great. Very bad. Yeah,
it's very funny. I'm so used to Mickey Mouse being used in edgy and subversive ways that him holding a gun in front of a bunch of dead kids doesn't even register to me. But Elon Musk with it, I'm like, okay, hold on, that's unusual. Like,
well, I don't know. Him and this whole cowboy stint, it kind of feels of a pace. I don't know. It's one of those things. Like, well, maybe. Well, that's not the only thing Elon Musk has been doing this week. Aside from mowing down toddlers, he's also trying to claim that a disastrous, that we know of, allegedly in Minecraft. He also was trying to do a Spaces with Donald Trump. It was terrible, first of all. Let's just start there. People couldn't get in for a while. There was like an hour of hold music and then dead air for 30 minutes. It was very bad. I wound up logging in and spent 10 minutes on there and went, you know what? No, neither of these guys has any juice. They're both just like sitting there washed. The funniest part to me is the post that he put out during this whole kerfuffle. It is, there appears to be a massive DDoS attack on X, working on shutting it down. Worst case, we will proceed with a smaller number of live listeners and post the conversation later. Now, I don't know how many people out there who are fans of the show or know things about computers, let's say. Generally, when you have a DDoS attack, it doesn't just affect one thing. Because it's called a distributed denial of service. You see, it would have taken the entire website down, and yet people were online posting about it. Strange how that works.
There was no problems. I was online the whole time it was happening, and yeah. I mean, not any more than usual for Elon-owned Twitter, but you know.
Right. Well, here's at unlocked U_N, and it goes through the whole. Wow, a DDoS attack so advanced, it's somehow able to target one specific Twitter space while leaving the entire rest of the platform completely unaffected. A skeptic might call that impossible, but the deviousness of these woke deep state leftists truly knows no bounds.
Let that sink in.
Yeah.
Man, can I get that on a t-shirt?
Drill, of course, had the definitive read on the situation, and it was simply two fat dipshits pissing on each other's shoes, only on X.
That was a very funny part of it, was hearing Elon still call them tweets after all of his thing about it being X, just still referring to them as. It was just funny hearing it from him. Like, even he does it. That
gives all the credence I need to I'm never calling it X whenever I can avoid it. I mean, come on.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and of course I didn't listen to it when it was going, but for the impression I get from what I've seen is it's like when people are like, how hard could podcasting be? You just talk, and then it's just be like, this is actually a lot harder than I thought it was.
Well, especially because they were doing it live, and Elon's not much of an interviewer. He just kind of went, yeah.
Yeah, it's
as someone who used to have an interviewing podcast, that was so frustrating to me, being like, you could do so much with this.
You could ask questions. You could interject. You could bring up a completely different topic to throw your guest off the.
Yeah, I guess I could get something to eat.
I could eat voice.
There's a Mexican place down the street it's fair.
You know, the traffic around here is very bad, and the weather is very unpredictable.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to hear him talk about the weather, much less anything else. Jesus Christ,
God!
But like I said,
I used to think it was humid in South Africa.
According to The Verge, Gabby Del Valle and Kylie Robeson reporting, the rest of X appears to be working normally, however, and a source at the company confirmed to The Verge that there wasn't actually a denial of service attack. Another X staffer said there was a, quote, 99% chance Musk was lying. 99?
For the
99. You work for him and you're saying 99.
You can tell they work for him because they're still doing the pulling statistics out of the air to sound smart. Like, according to my calculations.
Well, statistically speaking, yeah. You love statistically speaking people. And so the last bit of news we have this week is not, thankfully, Twitter related. This one goes off-site to another cesspool of nonsense and bullshit, Reddit. So there is an entire subreddit devoted to aquariums. Do you know this, Brian? Well, I guess it's not all that surprising. There's a subreddit devoted to everything.
Yeah, there's a subreddit for car key shapes, I'm sure.
That would be very funny if there was like some very specific lore about how no, we do not talk about aquariums on Reddit, and you do not ask why. It's just something like that.
There's some sort of mangosteen equivalent.
Never again.
Gold belly, mangosteen, yeah.
Goldfish.
But yes, but our aquariums, the original post that set all this off was user Wasuf Wonka. First of all, love it. The title, How to Protect My Aquarium from Shockwaves Caused by Jet Sonic Booms, under the help/advice tag. He says, I live in Lebanon, and there has been frequent jet sonic booms by Israelis. Some windows glass got broken. I have a 33-gallon aquarium made of glass. I am afraid if it breaks. What can I do to protect it from shockwaves? Should I cover it with yoga mat, foam mat, or something? That will create another problem where it will raise the temperature of the tank. I have it in my bedroom, and I am keeping the window open so it won't break. The post was very quickly locked, and the moderators of the subreddit shut that shit down right quick. They removed it the day it was posted. So, our aquariums users en masse started posting threads that were like, do impulsive events cause aquarium blowouts? Or how to protect my aquarium from shockwaves caused by jet sonic booms. P.S. I'm not Middle Eastern, so you could leave this one up. By Careful Purchase 394. Let's see here. Yeah, the mods did eventually respond. Took about a day or two. But the R Aquariums moderator, user Squeaky T, made a post. I want to apologize to everyone trying to access the sub today and encountering disruptions. We're doing what we can to clean it up and not catch legit posts in the process. What happened? A user from Lebanon made a thread asking if sonic booms from nearby Israeli planes could damage their fish tank. The question was answered, and concern trolls started stirring up drama about the war, which is not relevant to aquariums, so the post was removed. There are edited and removed comments that are now missing, leading to some confusion about the reason for the removal. We have explained to the original poster why it was removed and apologized. Sometimes we remove things in anticipation of them becoming a shit show, especially if they've already received satisfactory answers. This was one of those cases. We'll discuss making changes to our removal process more clear, yada, 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 yada. To those coming from outside of Reddit, he continues, nothing that you are doing helps Palestinians in any way. What you are doing is an activism. Tens of thousands of Palestinians have died in the war, but I'm sure their souls can all rest now, knowing that a bunch of internet users have brigaded an aquarium subreddit in their name. Fair enough.
Yeah, I'm kind of didn't really expect them to come around and
yeah, I thought I was not going to be on the side of the mods for this one ever. All right, asked and answered, I guess. Yeah,
yeah, I guess, yeah. Fair enough.
I mean, look, you know me. 9 times out of 10, I'm fuck the mods. They do it for free. Why do I? Jannies get wrecked. Mods new. I'm usually anti-mod, but that post, okay, all right, I'll give them that one.
Yeah, I think that's a perfectly reasonable explanation, but I also understand why it blew up, because I think it's one of the things about the story I think is pretty beautiful, because a big part of the narrative for the genocide is that people in Gaza are uncivilized or whatever, and
right.
I don't know if you've ever tried to have fish before. It's really hard to keep them alive. So someone having an aquarium, which is something that requires a lot of work and a lot of prep, it requires a lot of patience and compassion. That is very much goes against that. So I see why this is something that would inflame people, and why it kind of became a touch point. And I'm glad that the aquarium users fought the good fight. Because my experience, the aquarium people can be very chill, but it's one of those things where it's cool groups, so long as you don't mention one or two things that will set them off. But there are a lot of cool aquarium people out there.
Wait. Do you know a thing that is going to set aquarium people off? Because I think I'm in the mood for some trolling.
Oh no, not like
I love it when you
specifically
tap
that.
the
I mean, like
glass.
a lot of aquarium people, it's like very sweet nerds, or it's like retired people who are like retired people with opinions.
Okay, all right. I thought it was something specific about aquariums. You'd be like, yeah, I just got this new one. I put a bunch of concrete at the bottom. Is that all right?
Yeah, I just got this betta fish. I got this cube. It's like a third of a gallon. It came with it. It said it's enough, right? I put SpongeBob stickers on it.
Oh, the
How come it's
betta
not doing
fish.
tricks? It looks really sad for some reason.
I know some people that had betta fish. They said never again because yeah, it was such a nightmare to keep those fish both alive and entertained or
Yeah,
not depressed.
living a life that is passable.
Just like in modern America.
Oh gosh,
Capitalism. Yeah.
man, there's really no money sink in the world for
Oh.
like most people, like in an aquarium. My mom had one for most of my time in high school, and it was just fucking wild, like how much money that fucking thing costs to keep going. The fish, she liked frogs, so we had aquatic frogs. We had some big ass fucking Oscars and shit, and I
Frogs
forget
are
about.
pretty cool.
Yeah, the frogs were pretty neat. Also, when my mom decided she was done with the aquarium, the amount of like tire kickers on Craigslist, because she was trying to get rid of it for like a sweet price, but it's like if you're willing to buy like a 30-gallon aquarium on Craigslist with a nice wood stand and everything, and the filter and whatever, you already know the person selling it is probably really, they want it the fuck out.
Yeah.
So you're just going to grind that person to dirt.
Well, because 30 gallons, that's pretty big from what I
Yeah.
recall. If 30 gallons is what, like 6 feet across?
10 gallons is the size of like a terrarium you'd keep a mouse or a small lizard in. So imagine like 3 times that size.
Okay. So
It was
yeah, I was
pretty
just
big.
trying to get a mental image of that. Yeah, it's a big thing. You want it gone, and then you got people coming around and be like, "Well, I don't know. Would you take $50 for it?" That kind of shit. They get to your house and then they start lowballing you. Like, come on, do this via email. Don't fuck with me when in my house.
This could have been a scam email.
Right. Do me the courtesy of scamming me via email instead of in person. Did she end up selling it? Did she end up getting rid of the
Yeah,
fishing?
I remember her selling it. I was like 18 or 19, and it was like some like overweight dude and like his wife that smelled like onions or something. It was like the most unpleasant people I could have imagined at that time came in and were like, "Yeah, it's an aquarium," and then like we're really cagey about handing the money over. My mom is just like, "Just get the fuck out of here."
Yeah, hand me the money and get out.
Just we'll fucking put it in the back of your truck.
Yeah, it's like, okay, we're gonna next time meet someone in the parking lot of the Dollar General. Don't do this at my house.
With the 30-gallon tank in the back of your car? Yeah,
Yeah.
Jesus.
In front of the police department, this is a Craigslist safe exchange spot.
Like a needle exchange, like a Facebook Marketplace exchange tent you can go to.
Everybody that I want to buy shit from always wants to meet me at the police station. I'm like, all right, man, sure, okay, that's fine, but it's gonna look really weird when I hand somebody cash for like a bag of computer parts outside the police station more than it would anywhere else.
Yeah, now I'm imagining like a mix between like an automat and one of those Amazon drop boxes where it's like people selling it. It's like, okay, you put your item in the box, you go in your car, I go to the box, I put the money in, we swap them, like something like that.
I don't know. That seems pretty good to me.
Yeah, that could be worse.
Facebook automat, I'd use that.
Well, I guess it's about that time. I guess it's time for Crypto Scam of the Week, folks.
You're listening to 48 Minutes of Dogs Barking, the podcast.
And now it's time for the Crypto Scam of the Week.
The only thing worse than buying an aquarium is investing in cryptocurrency.
You know it's a good week for crypto scams when there's multiple in one story, and here we are again. This courtesy of Decrypt. I can't get over the name of this one. So this is Ryan S. Gladwin writing for Decrypt. A nutritional supplements company allegedly paid a group of online trolls to impersonate celebrities, fool its investors, and pump its token. And the scheme worked for a while. The company is called Insane Labz with a Z.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Everything about this one's real good.
An Arkansas-based supplement company and a former client of Gary Vaynerchuk. Yes, Gary V's startup mentorship program. So they launched the Labz token in May. On its roadmap, the project promised to collaborate with, quote, vetted celebrities. Instead, they got impersonators to hype the token in the Telegram group. Brian, are you familiar with Insane Labz?
I'm familiar with the supplement. I think I've seen it like once or twice when like looking for stuff online. I will not be trying their wares
After this? Yeah, Jesus. So among the celebrities impersonated, UFC President Dana White, MMA legend Nate Diaz, and social media sensation Hasbulla. That's the little guy, right? That's
the guy who hits his cat. Yeah.
Oh no, they impersonated Hasbulla.
They impersonated someone who doesn't speak English.
Yeah, very strange. So one investor who wished to remain anonymous, yeah, I would too if I invested in this shit, told Decrypt, quote, it was supposed to get endorsed by Dana White and was going to get advertised on the UFC. I dropped in another few $100, he said, claiming to have lost over $475 in total. It was, quote, a lot for the investor. That, okay, $500 hurts, but it's not your life savings. I'll reserve judgment on him. I'm assuming it's a him. He invested in crypto, and he was hyped about Dana White. So, just putting two and two together there. Insane Labz, of course, did not respond to Decrypt's request for comment. Blockchain data reviewed by Decrypt and Bubble Maps shows that a wallet linked to the Insane Labz team paid the trolls a small sum, $155 in Solana each. That ain't nothing.
Yeah, that's like when we found out those two aldermen for St. Louis. Two aldermen who Reed was one of them. Like just like two people that had been in St. Louis politics for way too fucking long. Two like noxious, cancerous individuals got caught taking bribes. Jeffrey Boyd and Louis Reed, who just two people like get the fuck out of St. Louis politics. Been there for way too long. Or spoilers on a mayoral election that got us stuck with someone who was a one-term mayor and sucked the entire time. Just two people that can go fucking get strapped to a fucking rocket and get shot at the sun.
But yeah, they accepted like 14 grand. It was like nothing. Like such
a like all their it was like you did it for like fucking like pocket change in the world of corruption.
Yeah, people sell out so cheap. Like Joe Biden's kids still had to pay off student loans. Like,
oh, one of the guys, Collins Muhammad, did get $13,500 in cash, $3,000 in campaign contributions, a Volkswagen CC sedan.
Okay, that's a little better,
and an iPhone 11.
Okay, a little payable. I can get that.
What was the other one? $10,000. He used the money to buy a 2008 Chevy Trailblazer.
Oh, hell yeah.
Jesus.
Dream bigger, baby. Fellas. You gotta understand, it's high mileage on this motor. It's high mileage, 250,000 miles. Listen, the rust's already there. We ain't gotta start it.
Yeah.
The spark plugs smell like old cheese. It's just bought some piece of shit, Trevi. Like, my dude, like you could just like wave for someone to dump one by the train tracks in Sauget.
Yeah, you could have walked.
You could just wait for a tornado to go through the junkyard and assemble one just out of parts.
Yeah, Southern Illinois, you get that in like a couple weeks. Anyway,
what we're getting at is like you're selling people out for such little money.
For pocket change.
Which says something about what one party thinks of the other, but what both parties think of the marks.
Because here's the detail about Hasbulla, right? The real Hasbulla Magomedov, Jesus, does not speak English, as you said. The fake influencer playing the part only communicated through Google Translate and GIFs.
Yeah, that's part of why the payday is so funny is when we say impersonating them, it wasn't like using AI to do like fake live streams of people shilling it. Like they were just making text posts. Like if you've ever seen a guy on Twitter who uses Bill Murray as an avatar, basically that. Like,
oh God, yeah. Or the guys that used to pretend to be like Kevin Hart on there. And they're all terrible. The two wallets linked to Insane Labz sold $12,450 worth of Labz tokens during the 12-hour period where it jumped 115%. So, they didn't even get away with all that much. 12 grand?
12 grand. But apparently, if you read here a little further, a unidentified whale offload over $70,000 worth of the token, which, again, pretty small in the world of crypto scams. We're used to seeing tens of millions of dollars here. This is just more like weird and petty and desperate.
Yeah.
Yeah, this seems like a lot of work.
You're hiring people, you're doing a telegram. Yeah, I mean, it feels like, man, just, I don't know, do anything but this. Insane Labs created Labz token emojis with the celebrity's face on them and would hype the chat whenever they posted. The investor, who wished to remain anonymous, again, I understand, told Decrypt. The investor claimed that the Insane Labs CEO, Dustin LeBleu, even pretended to have a FaceTime chat with the real Dana White regarding the project. The founder posted about a FaceTime chat he had with Dana White, asking Dana if he had any screenshots of the chat. Members of the chat, including the trolls and the individual investors, say they believe it was LeBleu who ran the account. He later posted what I believe to be a doctored photo of a FaceTime chat to make it seem legit. And yeah, it's just, there's a picture of Dana White on the phone, and his face is just like awkwardly inserted in the corner.
Amazing. This is just top tier shit.
Try to convince them on a cam girl is your girlfriend.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that the number of people, there were like 2,000 members of this Telegram channel. It's just, they're sitting there like, yeah, fucking let the haters hate, let's go. So of course they said, well, you got to pump the token if you want to get these UFC tickets that Dana White is giving us. There were no tickets. Dana White's not involved. Absolutely ridiculous. This type of thing will continue.
It would have been a lot funnier if it was Joe Rogan instead of Dana White.
Fair.
I think.
That is fair.
How would they tell?
That is also fair. They're both
the perfect crime.
They're both thumb-shaped white guys. I don't know. I mean, Joe Rogan does have a very distinctive face.
I'd love to go at Joe Rogan's face with some calipers.
Well, there's that too. Get your skull shapes. Okay. What are we working with here? Yeah.
Lazy Slav? I would have never guessed.
Doing the transvestigation with the triangle between the eyes and the nose.
Got the eyebrow crest of a shifty Eskimo.
Mm-hmm. The swarthy Sudanese are somewhere in there. Yeah, just unbelievable. Levels upon levels of shit posting and fakery, and please tell me, are you the real Hezbollah? Somebody says, and here it's just a GIF of Hezbollah on a jet ski. It's like, that's not an answer.
That's so fucking good.
Please excuse Billy from class. This is his mom.
Yeah, this is Epstein's mother note type of thing.
I have a story I can tell here. So in high school. God, if I've told this on the podcast, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
In high school, I had a friend, and her mom was from Vietnam, and she spoke in a very stereotypical Vietnamese accent. Very sweet lady, but she spoke like she was about to tell you when to pick up your dry cleaning, I'm sorry to say. And two of her friends skipped school and got my friend out of school by calling up and talking to the lady at the switchboard in a bad Asian accent.
Oh, no.
And got their friend out of school.
Oh,
no.
Because I was in class with them, and it was like, Vicky, come down to the office. Your mom is here to pick you up. And she was like, the fuck?
Yeah.
And like got to a car, and it was her two friends. They're like, yeah, let's go smoke weed. And she's like, oh, okay.
Unbelievable.
Man, that is like my personal jigsaw trap. It's like, will you be ironically racist to save your friend?
What if I just do one?
Yeah.
Is that enough jigsaw if I just do one eye? Is that?
Yeah.
We just don't record it. Just don't record it. No one will ever know I said it, right? No, it's got to be on the internet.
Over it so they know it's a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Put my theme music under it so they know we're just doing a thing. Yeah.
Put the ad break music under it. Everyone will skip it then.
In the 2 years we've been doing this show, we have not done ads. Isn't that weird?
No, us neither. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of glad we don't have to deal with that. It seems like a lot of work from what I've heard about from it.
It seems like one of those things where, like, okay, now I have to pay a pro to edit and do all this other stuff. I'm like, I'm DIY, man. I don't care. Well, anyway.
It reminds me of like in the 80s, a thing that like trashy TV shows would do. They would hire celebrity impersonators to sit in the audience of events to make it look like it was more like high class than it actually was. Like you'd hire a Cyndi Lauper impersonator to sit in the front row so the audience would think Cyndi Lauper was there. This is like the same vibe as that, except like more small potatoes. Like if you're gonna impersonate someone, you could like why not impersonate like like usually when people do this, it's like deep fakes of Elon Musk or Tom Cruise or something. I guess it's knowing your audience. But yeah, it's very funny. Like we're gonna do like some MMA people and like an internet person.
Yeah, and Hezbollah. Like, what the fuck? This guy? This little guy? All right, I guess. It got people hyped, I guess. I don't know, man. Like, you know what? If I was in a Telegram channel about a coin and it looked like the guy from Dracula Flow was in there, I might get duped by that.
Oh,
I might get
absolutely.
duped by Dracula. He's back, by the way, on Instagram doing his own thing, not under Plum Corp, as King Drac.
That's
So
awesome.
just do your search for King
God,
Drac.
the Plum Corp has been a little quiet lately, but
Yeah.
it is melted my brain because anytime like I talk to a coworker at this new job I got, like if I'm just goofing around, I'll call them like Big whatever, like Big Chris, and then I want to just say with the monkey nuts.
He's got shooters.
Yeah, he kills for his cousins.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Jesus.
Did you guys see the Bad Wizard one?
Oh God, no. Jay, are you up on your Plum Corp Records lore? Are you familiar with this at all?
No, I'm not actually.
All right, so it's a YouTube channel ostensibly for a clothing line, but the clothing line is all like really cracked out streetwear, and so
Oh boy.
it started in my mind. It started with Dracula Flow. It's this actor Charles Walker in really cheap, shitty Dracula costume, talking about how he's like. What was it? He's throwing bands at the ancient pyramids.
They forgot I'm him.
That's right. I dropped a perk 30 and went straight to fucking. Yeah, just absolute shit posting in verbal form. Because they gave him this like list of shit to read, and so he's just sitting there. And they did 5 of them. I mean, and it totals out to like 20 minutes of just this old guy shit talking in crappy Dracula costume.
And like there's like it's melting off of him, and
it's very obviously hot where they are.
Yeah, because like they're like in the desert. They're somewhere in the Southwest. Like because they just like find random people.
They're like actors on Craigslist because that's where they found Walker.
Yeah.
Is they found him off like Craigslist or his IMDb page or something, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we got to hire this guy."
There's one where they're like shitty wizards, and there's this one guy that's just like the guy you hire to be a stand-in from William Dafoe.
Okay,
on a long shot.
Okay,
and he's like in his shitty wizard get up, and he's just like, anytime I see a back to stop broken, I get a little unreasonable. Yeah, like one of the guys is just also like jacked and kind of looks like Rob Van Dam, the wrestler.
Okay,
is just like walking around like looking for Zaza, and like the rope is like this, like he's got these huge biceps and these big shoulders. And he's just like, yeah, looking for the Zaza man.
So if you haven't, search Plum Corp Records. It's Plum with 2 M's, CORP, on YouTube there. It's a plethora of weird shit. They had a whole thing where their channel was taken over by, what was it, like a Turkish cooking channel for a while?
It was like
oh my gosh, that's fantastic. I love
it was
that.
it was a Filipino cooking channel. That's right.
Apparently the guy behind it used to be like a YouTube prankster and also like an MMA guy or a streamer or something.
Yeah, Joji.
Some Zoomer guy. And then he just like, I guess, decided like he wanted to make like the Wes Anderson of weird internet tales that look like everything's filmed like on an old CCD digital camera from 20 years ago.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's so
absolutely.
good.
Yeah, mini DV. Yeah, just
Shorty laying eggs.
Oh God, the whole song where it's just like Perk City.
Back in Florida, there was this guy I knew about who would be on local news a lot, where he ran this organization called AMRAK, which is karma spelled backwards. I'll never forget that. That's how he began every video, was making, I run AMRAK. AMRAK is karma spelled backwards. It's about taking your haters and turning their words around back on them.
Okay.
And his thing was, it was ostensibly an anti-bullying charity, but what it was he would get kids to volunteer for it, and then he's like, we're going to make videos so they feel good about themselves to make up for the harm to their self-esteem to bullying. And the video they made was an ad for shoes. And his thing was, these are anti-bullying shoes. When you buy them, it takes a donation to this anti-bullying charity. And he literally marketed them as anti-bullying shoes. Like, these are the first anti-bullying sneakers. And like, just this whole thing being a grift to sell shoes. And he was like going on local news people, and the local news anchors are being like, it's great to seeing someone taking advantage, like fighting back against bullying, and him just using these kids as props. Like the origin story of AMRAK was like, he couldn't even like talk about being bullied as a kid. The origin story was that he used to work in Hollywood, and someone like slighted him on a project that he felt like he deserved credit on, so he decided to dedicate himself to fighting bullying. Like, he makes everything about him in such a weird way. Like, he's such a fascinating character. Like, I would love to do something about him sometime.
Holy shit. By the way, it is CJ the Sagittarius is the song by Perk City. An older gentleman, he's got like an entire carton of Newports stacked in his hand. It's so bizarre.
He's like, there's also like shots of him like flipping it between his finger like he's doing a card trick, like the pack of Newports. It's so
And
good.
to be fair, that's how I've been recording this whole time.
Fair.
Like, I just light
That's
the whole
fair.
thing and smoke it at once.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty neat.
You got the 3D printed a 20 cigarette holder there.
God, for when it's been a rough
No, I
day.
have a 3D printer that just 3D prints the cigarettes.
Hell yeah.
It takes like 5 minutes to make one, but I never have to leave for the store again. I just order
You just
that.
sit there chain smoking, and you're just like, well, you hit start again. Just like this, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I'm getting twice the cancer now.
Damn right. There's no good segue. So our main topic tonight is something near and dear to Jay's heart, I know in particular, and many of you out there, I'm sure. It's the website FurAffinity. Now,
Yeah, I'm really excited to get to talk about this with you guys, because this is, if you're not a furry, it's probably be surprised how like big this site was and how much it means to how many people.
well, what's really interesting to me is that it wasn't the first one. It's just the one that most people know, right? Because if I remember correctly, based on what I'm reading here on the WikiFur entry, it was launched January 2005 as an alternative to Sheezy Art, because Sheezy Art was one of the bigger sites. But Sheezy Art decided, because the hosting company said so, that they were going to say, we don't host adult content anymore. We don't host anything adult, nothing.
Years ago, websites were pulling that bullshit.
Well, not only that, but they were constantly begging for money because the servers needed upkeep and all that.
I guess I will say, before we go a little deeper, I can give you like a little history on furry art sites, because like before all this, like originally, like the earliest big furry art site was VCL, the Vallon Central Library, and it was just like a file hosting site where you would have like just like you could upload images there and people could see them, but there weren't comments. There wasn't really a social media thing. It was like you had to be invited to it. It was kind of exclusive, and everyone just kind of used that. But then DeviantArt came along, and it had these social features that were really neat. Like you could comment on stuff, you could follow people and get updates on them. But the community there was very not friendly to furry, so it was very they didn't want to be there. And then Sheezy Art came along, was very explicitly trying to be like, we're DeviantArt for furries. Like their mascot is even a raccoon that's the same colors as the DeviantArt robot.
I was going to say,
they were very
it looked very familiar, and that was why. Okay.
Yeah, and so that was explicitly what it was, and so that's why they kind of blew up. And then like you said, a big part of that too was VCL was an adult site. Like you could put porn on there if you wanted to. And then a lot of the other big furry sites were trying to be like, no, we want to be like a serious furry site. We're not going to allow porn. We can have adult stuff. Or it's like, you can have porn, but you can't have like weird porn. You can't have like the fetish stuff or whatever. And so Sheezy Art being a place where people could go there and post that for the most part was kind of big. And then they threw that away. And then when FurAffinity came along, that was kind of the big thing. The idea that it wasn't like, we're going to silo the weird people off into their own thing or kick them off. It was just like, no, like when you go to FurAffinity, you can just straight up search by categories. Like, do you want to see fat stuff? Do you want to see pregnant stuff? Do you want to see giants? Like, it's just right baked into the website that it's like embraces all the weird stuff that the other sites wanted to exclude.
Yeah, and that immediately drew my mind to when Something Awful basically gave birth to 4chan, because they were trying to kick anime weirdos and pedophiles off their website.
Marshall Banana and Kentar and all these terrible people and flocked over to Something Awful, and then that's how we got January 6th.
Well, there's that. Yeah.
Yeah.
but FurAffinity was definitely, for a while there, kind of the Wild West as far as furry art goes. I mean, it was very much anything goes.
It was, yeah, like especially when it first started out, like in the early 2000s when they were really like sort of figuring thing out and also like enforcing it. Like that is one of the, like, I'm glad that you brought up Something Awful, because I think that's actually a pretty good comparison in a lot of ways, because this was a website that was made in 2004 and it's gotten a few updates, but it is largely like a web 1.0 website, and that's where a lot of the appeal is in it. It's like Something Awful. People like to use it because there isn't an algorithm, there isn't like any sort of social media integration. It's just you go there, there's pictures, there's journals, and you can just you can use it like an old website. And the parallels with Something Awful are very strong there too, like I said. But also, whereas Lotax was the guy who created Something Awful and always ran it, FurAffinity was originally founded by someone named Alcora, and then the person who kind of was the inception is Dragoneer. They were there from the beginning, but they took over after a couple years. That was a part of it too. It was started by someone else, they stepped away, and then someone else took over and had to kind of readjust it, and then it was always kind of in a sort of perpetually in a state of like adjustment and changing.
Because I understand in the early years there were problems with hacking, there were problems with because it was a web 1.0 site, there were a lot of security issues. It was hacked a couple of times, but it always came back, right? Because the community was always there for it. There was always donations coming in, buying server hardware, and there's such a strong community that came from somewhere else that clearly didn't want them, that they built their own thing and kept it going for so long. Because the reason we're talking about FurAffinity this week is because last week you mentioned Dragoneer. He passed away. And it was a huge outpouring that I saw online of support for FurAffinity and for people who grew up on that site. Because, again, it's 2005 is when they, really started making a name for themselves. And so, it's been almost 20 years that site's been going, and that Dragoneer has been a huge part of it. It was really astounding. Because I knew it existed, it was in the back of my mind, but I'm not part of that community. I'm not a furry. I don't go seeking that content out. And so it just kind of was always there. And it never occurred to me that, like, yeah, there have been people like living and doing on this site for almost 20 years. And that was like, damn, yeah, that's really rare. I mean, the fact that it's still up, like,
yeah, it really is, especially with furry sites, because like before this, furry sites would usually only be big for a couple years, and then a new one come along, and afterwards, like every couple years, someone tries to launch a new FurAffinity competitor, and unless they carve out a specific niche for themselves, they don't really stick around or find an audience. Because it's what FurAffinity is, what people use, because it's what's there, it's what the community is, and it's easy, it works.
It's the default. It's the site that you go to because, that's where furries are, and you go where the people are.
There have definitely been like conflicts over the years about like how the site should be run and moderation decisions on it. Like I mentioned about like FurAffinity competitors, like one of the only big ones that really carved out a niche for itself was Ink Bunny, because FurAffinity has a rule: you're not allowed to have cub art on there, which is basically the furry equivalent of like Lolicon. And so Ink Bunny was like, hey, we're a free speech site, you can draw all that stuff you want. So now Ink Bunny is just the site for furry pedophiles. Like it's whenever you see, if you're a furry and you see someone with an Ink Bunny account, it's always just like, uh-oh.
Yeah, because a cub stuff and all that is like, I mean, it's your thing or whatever, but like,
this is ostensibly like the hub fur community. Like, you don't want that to be around there because it's like you want everyone to feel safe and comfortable there, and regardless of your feelings about like fantasy and reality, it's just like there are people who are going to be upset by that. There are people who are going to be triggered by that, and like, it's also like from a business perspective, like the fact one of the ways that FurAffinity supported itself was instead of having like traditional third-party advertisers, they did community advertising, like Something Awful. You could buy a banner ad on there. The payment processors have always been a big part of that too, is like complying with that. So I definitely think they made the right call with that. I 100% agree with that. Like, if you cannot tell me how derisive I was when I was talking about Ink Bunny, I obviously, but I get, it's just, running a site that is very openly an adult website is very complicated, and I do not envy being the fact that he stuck with it that long is just honestly impressive. Because like on Something Off, like when people get banned from a site, some people just never let it go. Like, imagine someone getting banned from like the one place where they can get their weird like furry porn from, and then just imagine them never letting it go. Just like the hatred that burns into you over the years from that.
Well, yeah, because they had their own version of the Something Awful $10. This was $5. You could get your FurAffinity Plus, your FA Plus. That opted out of advertising.
Did you have to pay extra for search?
Let's see. No, you paid more for the ability to browse more submissions per page on browse, search, and gallery, and bigger them.
Yeah, it was more of like a supporting the page and getting like it's supporting the site and getting little perks thing, like an actual like legit subscription thing. Like that is they have tried to add ways to monetize the site over the year that have never really been super popular. Like a recent one they did is they added the ability to tip money directly by buying them shinies, and like I never see anyone using that.
Wait, what's a shiny?
It's like their version of like when you like buy stuff on like the Xbox, you have to have like Microsoft bucks. Or
Okay.
whatever, like shinies are their thing. It's like you can tip someone a shiny, which is like $5 or whatever.
Okay, so it's a currency to use only on that website.
Yeah, it's just like a cutesy name for like or like the bits on Twitch.
I gotcha. So it's an insight currency.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. So, Jay, your history with FurAffinity, do you have specific like events that come to mind? Because I know they were one of the first websites that would put together a furry specific convention.
Yeah, they did their own convention, which was a big thing too in the 2000s. When like usually the conventions had been going since the 80s, but having one specifically for a website like that was pretty unusual. And yeah, I have a lot of personal experiences with FurAffinity. Like before it came along, like as a weird furry, like it was just really hard to find other people that were into the same things that you were. Like usually you had to go to like Yahoo groups or Google groups and find people and be like just in groups of like a couple dozen or like a BB code forum where it's just like a couple of people. And then when FurAffinity came along, all of a sudden everyone was in the same place and you're like, oh wow, there's a lot more of us than I thought. And it was like saying it's profound sounds silly, but yeah, being like, oh, I'm not alone. We just didn't have a way of getting in touch until now. And it was very gratifying. I think that's one of the reasons why there's such a strong sense of community is just the fact that there are so many people there. And as a personal level, it legitimately was very, especially growing up in a place where furries were not welcome on the internet.
Right.
Like, yeah, like DeviantArt. When I was a teenager, a lot of furries post on there because it was the big furry art site, and you would just get bullied constantly for posting furry art. Like teenagers that were drawing anime and like dudes with like untextured handgun renders would just be like calling you slurs for drawing a skunk with big boobs or whatever. And it was like it was such a hostile environment because that was before they really had the management abilities to like block as much and everything, and also just it was a more hostile place. So FurAffinity being a place where it was like, no, you can if you want to draw Sabrina from Sabrina Online with like giant knockers, go right ahead. People are going to be into it. No one's going to judge you for it. Like,
well, I mean, I think that's really important. You know, online spaces where you can feel safe are huge for people, and no matter what your subgenre, your niche community is. And I keep coming back to 19 years, but not many websites from that time period are still around. The archive.org is a graveyard of a lot of these sites that were also very niche,
particularly like a community website. I feel like furries are like the Linux users of the internet.
Oh, there's a lot of overlap, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. Tell me, I work for an open source software engineer with a green market for sure.
I was gonna say, yeah. Fred's got the Tanuki, or is he a raccoon? I can't remember.
He's a raccoon, although I'm friends with the Tanuki as well. She's pretty cool.
Okay. Every once in a while, I'll pull up Fred's Twitter. I'm like, oh yeah, it's all raccoon stuff. Okay.
That was how we became friends. Was he
yeah.
followed the Crazy Ass Moments on Something Awful history account, and because I was going through the new follows, I saw. I think I'm like, oh, that's funny that furry's using Frederick Brennan's name, and I clicked on it, and I was like 32,000 followers. Oh no, that's actually him. And I was like, wait, he's a furry, and then there's something like he's the same type of weird furry as me. And I'm like, I think we could be friends.
Hell yeah.
And then skip forward like a couple months later, he loses his personal assistant. I'm like, well, I just lost my job. I don't have anything keeping me here. I'll give it a shot. And it turns out I'm really good at it. And yeah, it's great. Like, and again, like just that little thing, like being a furry is the closest thing to being like a part of a secret society. Like people make jokes about the furry Illuminati, but that's kind of what it's like. It's just across like every like slice of society, just people wind up like this, and we all know each other. And like it's really cool. Like if I have a car problem, I can hop on the New Jersey First Telegram group and just be like, yeah, my car's doing this, and I'll have like 3 people that are gearheads being like, you gotta do this, take it here, get this. It's such a wonderful resource as someone who spent a lot of their 20s very alone and isolated.
Damn.
Yeah, I mean, this is the personal part here, so I can get to the fun website stuff now. But I feel like talking about that because it's kind of my brand is like this sort of sincere humanistic side of this stuff. So
this is really coming from someone who is a complete outsider. Like I came up in the early days of Something Awful. We've talked about that before. And there was that whole furry threads get gassed on the site that drove all the furries off of Something Awful. Being a 18-year-old shithead, I didn't think twice. I was like, yeah, haha, fucking furries or whatever. As I've gotten older, I'm like, yeah, but all the furries I know are the nicest fucking people who will help you with your car making a weird noise or whatever it is. Yeah, so it's not surprising to me, but it really is one of those things where I think society as a whole still has yet to come around.
Yeah, like I feel like people are a lot better about it now. Like it is very like what's with things like now it's like everyone kind of knows a furry when they go to school. It's just like a type of weird kid. Like how like when we were kids they would have like a beatnik in every animated sitcom even though they hadn't been around for decades because that's when they grew up. Like I feel like in a decade or two like the animated sitcoms are going to have like a weird furry kid as like part of the standard group of like archetypes because it's a thing now.
Yeah.
And yeah, but also I really make it because like I totally get it because like I was the same way and I was a furry.
Yeah.
So like you know that's like I mentioned being very isolated. That's a part of it. I was like the opposite of Blade. I had like all the weaknesses and none of the strengths. I had like all the insecurity and negativity of like yeah it was. That's one of the reasons why I'm so big on the whole like positivity and like accepting who you are and finding meaning with that because like yeah it is I feel really bad especially because like that is the downside of all the furries using FurAffinity is like every year you'll have like a new crop of 18-year-olds who are still like 4chan edgelords who will be like you know like trolling trans people or whatever because they're still ashamed about the fact that they like have to watch people get inflated like balloons to get off or whatever like it's a cycle.
Because I know it was the target of a number of different brigades from Something Awful, 4chan, Reddit, anywhere where there are teenager assholes. They're going to come for what they feel is like a marginalized community, and FurAffinity surely fits that bill. And so, yeah, I mean, there were a number of times where they were having issues with people posting gore art and doing things like that. Like, yeah, 2017, it says here, according to the WikiFur article,
I remember
a
this,
600 account bot troll started uploading gore artwork to the front page. The accounts were created within like a 2-week span as a pre-planned attack. They managed to knock it out pretty quickly. It says they shut down uploads for a short period. They had 5 minutes of server downtime and conducted maintenance on the server the next day. So you don't truck with any bullshit for sure.
Yeah, unfortunately, you kind of have to have a procedure in place when you run this type of site because it would just get harassed. That was kind of a regular thing, especially in the earlier days. Like that's one of the reasons why it stood out, because people kind of tapered out after a while. Like,
sure,
it was also very surreal. It's like, have you ever read or seen Scanner Darkly, the Philip K. Dick
both?
novel
Yes.
/movie?
Yeah.
I felt like the guy from that a lot of times. It's like I'm with other furries and we're talking about this awful stuff that people from Something Awful are doing, and it's also like, oh, I'm also. It's like I'm two worlds at once. And it's like, my scramble suit was malfunctioning. Like, wait, which am I supposed to be, the panda or the human right now? It was such a weird space to exist in.
I could tell you, Jay, it's probably better than being the poster Two Worlds.
Oh, yes.
As soon as I said that, I was like, oh no, I should not be making that comparison. I am not that.
See, I was thinking the shitty game, but you guys...
Apparently he's doing a lot better now.
I'm glad.
Like, there are people... So I've heard that, at least.
So for those who are not following Jay, those who don't know the reference, can you guys both break down Two Worlds for us?
Jay, you get the first shot at it.
Okay, yeah, so I'm not super fresh on this, but Two Worlds was this kind of like, he was this very sort of oblivious guy who thought of himself as like an anime protagonist.
Oh, no.
Just kind of being like a dipshit. And he called himself Two Worlds because he was like, I exist in two worlds, a world of light and a world of darkness, stuff like that. Like a guy who monologues like Sephiroth when he's talking about like how carrying a printer for someone didn't result in a date, like that type of guy. And he was just a very active presence on there, and his posting career kind of came to an inglorious end because there was like an attempt at doing like it was called Goon Love is the Best Love, where it basically was like, hey, why don't we try dating each other? And like people went on dates with him, and there were some very awkward write-ups about just like what a weirdo he was, and you know. Just one of those things where it's like, I'm very glad I'm not that person, but also at the same time, it's like, man, I wish someone was helping them.
So I have a really bizarre Two World story.
Okay.
And that he showed up in like the people you may know on my Facebook a few times.
Oh no.
And our mutual was a local musician here. I won't say her name.
Please don't put him on blast.
But I was like, that's really weird. Because his like real name's like or something. I can't remember, but I remember like seeing this musician at a show and being like, how do you know such and such? And I was like, oh, I went to like college with them or something like that. Like there was some, and you know, he's just like a really like kind of odd, like harmless guy. And you know, I don't really remember because this is like 10 years ago, but there was a audio file that went around about 10 years ago where Two Worlds was being like very emotional. I think like very, very upset. And he's talking to a young woman. And I realized when I heard this that the young woman that was like trying like kind of like metaphorically talk him off the ledge was this musician that I knew. And I was like, this is weird. This is like a person who I do not consider to be very online or anything like that.
Yeah, no.
Involved with like what would have been like a something awful lol cow in like 2008 or 2009.
Yeah, I have to tie into the main theme. A very funny version of that when you're a furry is like following someone because like their art and being like, wait, that guy who draws that cute dog in outer space used to be a FIAD poster.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
that, like, how many furries used to be goons is very fun.
So I was reading through this article about the history of FurAffinity. Apparently, one of the users wound up on the Tyra Banks show.
Oh my gosh, this story is fantastic, and I have a fun personal hook for it. I'm so glad you brought it up. Yeah, because this was in 2009. So there was this daytime talk show called Tyra that was hosted by Tyra Banks. And one of the episodes was about couples that have weird sex. It opens, and it's like three couples sitting on beds in pajamas. And she's like talking about it, and she's like, and one of these people like to have sex in animal costumes. And it's about like, and they talk to them, and it's like a furry couple, and they talk about like being fursuiters and stuff. And like, it's obviously daytime TV, and they're trying to be salacious and provocative, but I feel like it was pretty like they did a good job representing themselves. I thought it was fine, but the people of FurAffinity fucking hated this woman for doing it because this was still like during the like furries have to be very secretive. You have to like act like we're like this friendly like this was when Uncle Kage, who like has been described as the David Miscavige of the furry community, like that was when he was the chairman of Anthrocon.
Jesus.
Yeah, he's very much the like there's nothing wrong here, we're just a fun group of people who like cartoon animals, you know, like that type of thing. Very obvious. He just lied to people's faces. Like he's one of those dudes that's like 60 and still won't openly say that he's gay. Like, you know, just that type of dude.
Yeah.
Like, the never gonna get out of the closet type of dude. But yeah, and this was very much the time like you're making us look bad. You're dishonoring the furry name, and so like people flooded her page with hate and stuff. And eventually she got banned from FurAffinity because they said that for being on the show. And then eventually people were like she didn't break any rules by doing that, so they rescinded it. And then later on, like at a furry convention, she wore a t-shirt referencing it, and they were like, this is a harassment, this violates the terms of the site, so we're gonna ban her. So it was just like a bullshit like we wanted to ban her, so now we have an excuse type thing. It was just handled very poorly. And like I said, like I don't want to trash talk Dragon here because he just died and he's very fondly remembered, and he did a lot of good stuff. We're gonna talk more about that when we finish up, I'm sure. But yeah, not everything was perfect. That was a great example of that. Was like people could dogpile, people had clicks, people had biases, and also there's this sort of thing as like as the face of the community almost, like you had to sort of uphold. Thankfully, they mellowed out over the years. But yeah, that was just a really embarrassing time for us. And I actually got to talk to Chew Fox once.
Okay,
like,
yeah, Chew Fox was the lady.
Yeah, she was the lady, and that was kind of the interesting thing about it too. Is it was like a furry couple where the woman was kind of like, you know, especially because back then, you know, the 2000s was still the, like there are no girls on the internet era, and even at that time, furry was a lot better about that. A lot of people, like even in my like weird furry communities, people were just open to be like, yeah, I'm a woman who's into this thing too, and people were like, cool, you know. But yeah, that was a part of it. And I used to have a furry interview podcast, and I didn't get to release it, and the files are lost. But I talked to her once, and it was really interesting to hear her talk about how dispiriting it was to because especially because as furries we've received so much harassment ourselves, to be receiving on it from your own kind, and that's a dramatic way of putting it. But like your peers ostracizing you hits much harder, and it's just like a very alienating experience, and just not a proud moment for anyone involved in that.
Well, yeah, it's a really odd vertical of a subculture to be put on the grand stage like that, and particularly when like you're saying, like a point in time where like furries don't really have like the best reputation. It's something that people are kind of struggling to wrap their head around. There's misinformation, there's misunderstandings of certain things. Like I have a friend in high school who ended up being a furry. And he ended up being a very weird furry. I remember he spent some ridiculous amount of money at a local fair, I think it was Valley of Flowers, to win a giant stuffed dragon.
Was it at least like a Rasta dragon or something?
I don't really remember, but I do remember going over to his house one time.
I'm going to be really mean. That sounds very on brand for a dragon furry.
I don't know the fursona stereotypes, but maybe this will close the loop. But I went over to his house one time, And he was very excited to show me this giant. I mean, this thing was probably like 3 or 4 feet tall. He must have spent a ridiculous amount of money trying to win it. He was showing me how he was going to modify the crotch of it so he could fuck it. And I was like, "Yep, this is." I felt like my brain was the gif of Abe Simpson walking to the cat house, and seeing Bart, and just be like, "Well, I don't know if I really want to be a part of this conversation anymore."
It's one of the reasons why I like to bring up the Chew Fox stories, because as much as I am a shooter for furries as a whole, like, yeah, there are absolutely some awful people involved, and we are not above that. Like, furries are not like some saintly group of victims. Like, we are people too,
right? And
people can be gross and mean to each other, and that's why I try and make sure a point of that as well. That we are not above or outside of that. We're people just like everyone else. We just pretend we're someone.
Yeah, we're messy bitches who love drama. No, I get it.
Literally be messy bitches.
So the other event that I thought was interesting regarding FurAffinity, Studio Canal, a film production company, was making a Paddington movie. It was 2016. The first Paddington movie came out. And Studio Canal reached out to Dragoneer and said, "Hey, remove all references to Paddington from your website." Which was all artwork, adult or otherwise, drawings of characters wearing clothes similar, drawings in which the word Paddington was used but was otherwise unrelated to the character, and photographs of real people standing in front of promotional posters for the Paddington film.
Yeah, that's why I'm first known as a panda. I used to be a Paddington, but it may change it.
And so Dragoneer published in a journal a message from Paddington and Company that explained that because of a portion of the Paddington-related images was pornographic in nature, which they believed violated fair dealing, they sent DMCA notices regarding all Paddington images, stating, quote, "You have a lot of Paddington images on the site, including many pornographic ones, and to go through your site image by image to determine which is acceptable and which is offensive is impractical, especially as they change constantly. If you remove the pornographic images, that you will find that this problem is easily resolved, and you will not hear further from us." He stated plans that they were going to work with Paddington and Company to come up with a solution. It's still like, what are you doing?
That's very funny because like a year later, Zootopia was actively like telling furries, "Yeah, come to the premiere."
Yeah. Well, one company knows their audience and the other one does not, I think, is the ridiculous. Because you're going to make a movie called Zootopia about animals that are hot. And you're going to tell them no? What?
I feel like there wasn't a lot of demand for Paddington. He's not really he doesn't have a lot of sexual energy. He's just like a nice guy.
No, he's a frumpy dude who likes marmalade. What do you which I guess is some people's thing. I mean, I'm not going to, downplay that, but it doesn't do it for me.
Yeah, and that is weird because like companies don't usually do that. Like this is the only time I ever get to talk about some mic. Like back in the on F-chan, which was like the furry like art chan that they had in the 2000s. Like Bill Watterson, the owner of Calvin and Hobbes, had filed like a do not post for artwork of Hobbes. So like you couldn't post sexy artwork of the tiger from Calvin Hobbes. The creator specifically was like, no porn.
Okay.
That totally tracks with everything we know about Bill Watterson. That's pretty great. Like, honestly, I understand, but that's very funny, the idea of Bill Watterson writing an angry email to this like furry artist.
You do not want to fuck the tiger, I swear. Yeah.
Hobbes would never do that.
Yeah. It's out of character.
Hobbes is straight.
Oh God. Yeah. Jesus.
No, of course
Hobbes
not.
is
I don't know anything towards about.
Oh.
Hobbes is asexual.
Jesus.
Now I'm imagining Hobbes as one of those like anti-goon squad minions.
Yes.
It's just like a buff tiger.
Never goon on the shirt. He's pumping iron. Calvin's like, we don't hang out anymore. Like, shut the fuck up, beta. I don't know what the fuck that was about. But yeah, that was 2016. The Paddington bit, and like, oh geez, I guess they're again FurAffinity. This is the known quantity. Like, I guess when you think about where's the website you go to talk about movies, well, obviously I would say Letterboxd, but most people would say IMDb, right? Well, where do you go when you want to talk about furries? And the first thing that comes to most people's minds who've been on the internet for a while is FurAffinity.
No joke, when Dragoneer died, I had non-furry friends text me being like, I heard Dragoneer died. Like,
yeah.
like, yeah, it is very much like and like when I listen to podcasts or watch YouTubes, like it's a thing people do bits. Like they'll be like, what character gets the most results on if you search for it on FurAffinity or something. Like it is as a thing that exists. It is just like a nice touchstone for people to have, even as non-furries. Just like, yeah, that's where the furries exist. You know.
I think that's kind of how you've made it as a subculture. If there's like one place where people know where to find you.
Yeah, and the fact that it's noteworthy when we get like harassed instead of it being just sort of like the constant background radiation of existing. Yeah, and also I guess what we're talking about, I this maybe pulled up. I was curious. Right now on FurAffinity, at this very moment, there are 15,059 registered users and 57,650 other users. So 74,000 total online at this very moment on FurAffinity.
Yeah.
On Something Awful, there are 3,221 logged in. There are like way more furries on there right now, just to give an example of how active that is.
Yeah, the furries won, I think, is the way you would say that. I mean,
that's true.
Eat shit, Fragmaster.
Oh, yeah, because it was. Oh, God, yeah.
I'm sure on that hard drive, there's probably a lot
I'm very excited.
of not very kind image macros about furries, I'm sure.
Oh, and it's probably a recording of Fragmaster going, "Get the furries off the web," because he had a
Can you get the furries off the website? Or I'm going to have to do a kill on them.
It's a pretty good Fragmaster.
So there was a buyout, right?
The buyout was really weird because it got bought out by the company that owns like IMVU, which I only know about because like if you've ever been at the checkout line at the grocery store and they have that wall of gift cards and there's one where it's like a creepy 3D like looks like a teenager in makeup like staring at you with those dead doll eyes.
Yes.
That's IMVU.
Yes.
And it's like a 3D chat program that mostly like teenagers use, and for some reason they bought this as part of their portfolio. They wound up Dragoneer was having money problems, and as much as he loved FurAffinity, he had to sell it basically, so he sold it to them.
Yeah.
And it was weird because like for the most part they learned to keep their hands off, but at first they were like, oh, we're gonna try some new ads, and everyone completely backed out. They try to make changes, and eventually they learned like every time we make a change, people freak out and we lose money, so we're just gonna let them keep doing what they were doing. And and eventually he bought it back a couple years ago because I guess the company who owned them was having money troubles. But that was a really weird, also in terms of like success, being like, the main furry art site is owned by like a major multinational corporation. That was, it's almost kind of like our version of Elon buying Twitter.
Yeah,
I think about it.
That's kind of the analogy I was going to draw, because it's like here comes the big money, but the big money was this Gaia Online knockoff,
like a 3D Gaia Online knockoff. Like imagine the lobby for an MMO, and it's just the lobby. Like you dress up little 3D characters and talk to each other.
Oh man,
like the type of place that people would have trolled in the 2000s, like Habbo Hotel style. Which they're bringing back.
I've heard this.
They're bringing back like a retro.
Yeah, I've heard
the pool's not closed.
The pool is no longer closed. That's right. Pool's back open because of AIDS.
AIDS is coming back in the big way, folks.
Pool open because of PrEP.
Yeah.
God damn.
That was a good one, Jay. That was.
I still can be edgy sometimes.
Just that's so weird.
Yeah, and like I'm glad you mentioned it too, because that is like a fun thing about furries too. Is like it's not as true as it used to be, but like the joke we'd always say is that furries are too weird to be commercialized, and that is one of the reasons why I think we've been pretty lucky about this. Is like in order because FurAffinity is so openly sexual and weird and queer and like fetishy and everything, like it never really got to be commercialized in the same way, and that's one of the reasons it's kind of gotten to persevere, since it largely remained like independently owned. And like I guess like the weird thing is like big stuff like that does work. Like I know it's like a lot of artists now, they monetize stuff more. Like Makeship, like that company that makes stuffed animals for games and stuff. Like there are companies like that make like people's OCs into stuffed animals, or people sell like blankets with their artwork on it and stuff. So it's just like more people get to do it as a full-time job. That's a part of it too, is because this is bigger and it's a community. Like people literally like owe their livelihoods to FurAffinity, the community creator. Like there are people who are like, I used to work like a day job and now I just do commissions as a thing. Like the reason why people make the joke about being like, I can always make furry porn commissions to pay the bills is partially because of FurAffinity. That was when it was all one big marketplace like that really became more of a known thing.
Yeah, if you commission your fursona and you were willing to pay the money, that artist would pay rent that month. Not bad.
Yeah. And that is a neat thing too. There are people who are openly like, yeah, I'm not a furry, but I'm an artist and I like doing commissions for them. And we're like, yeah, that's cool. We like it because furries are like in the professional world, like furries are notoriously nice commissioners. Like they pay well, they tip well, they're good to work with. Like some of them can be unpleasant personally, but like as like, compared to like anime commissioners, from what I've heard,
Right.
it's like, oh yeah, furries are so nice to work with. Like that's one of the very nice things is the fact that people are like, yeah, I'm not a furry, but I like them a lot. You know, they're very nice to me, like personally, like that.
What I find interesting about FurAffinity is that if you're not an account holder and you just pull up the website, which is still up, as we mentioned many times in this episode, and maybe sfw.furaffinity.com, just so you can kind of skip the porn. But it's like old Tumblr where it's just a feed of images and you just have this sense of like, yeah, this is just an outpouring of art from people who are really passionate. And that I always applaud. I like just seeing passionate artists being out there. And so what? They're making furry art. Who gives a shit?
One of the reasons too why people still use is because of that community. Because like if you post something on Twitter, it's like artists, especially small artists, it's very hard to get anyone to talk to you or mention your art on FurAffinity because it's a smaller, more tightly knit community. Like someone will browse this category or tag every day just to see what's new. Like you can conceivably see everything that got uploaded in your niche on FurAffinity every day. So new artists will get a lot more engagement, people commenting on it, and they'll like make friends and stuff. It's as a smaller artist, like I used to know someone's like, I don't even bother posting my stuff to Twitter anymore, but I still post it to FurAffinity because I get those interactions.
That's fantastic. So advice for the fur curious, I guess, would be my next question. Those of us who are not necessarily in the community but are interested, pick a tag, maybe find a show that you know of. Like my first thought was, Isabel from Animal Crossing, like find a character that you think is interesting and you want to see interesting artwork of them.
Yeah, when you're not logged into FurAffinity, you have to create an account to see not safe for work stuff.
Okay.
So, like, if you go and you search when you're not logged in, like, you're not going to get anything too eye-searing. So right away, like, I think that was a very smart decision. It's kind of like the word filter on Old Something
Yes.
Awful, too. It's like, you got to kind of pay your dues
Yeah.
if you want to see it. Yeah, gently caress that. Yeah, and so yeah, you can go there. I'd say like I guess like and even outside of like a sexual thing, just like I think it's fun just to see people drawing like furry versions and stuff. Like I'd say, what do people think JC Denton would be if he was a furry? And I search it, I'm like, German Shepherd, that makes sense. He's a cop.
Okay.
Or like
A ball?
a couple months ago after the debate, I searched FurAffinity for depictions of Biden and seeing a lot of like sleepy hound dog Bidens.
Oh, that's very sweet. I love it.
Yeah, it's nice to do. Is like the FurAffinity is moderated very well. Like people get stomped out when they try and do stuff like hateful or provocative. So you can look for stuff like that, and it's usually not very upsetting. There are a lot of indigenous artists on FurAffinity.
Oh.
Like you can see a lot of like that's a very fun thing. Like you can search for certain styles. There are people who do like music on FurAffinity. There are people who write fiction and not like smut, but like actual like genre fiction and things like that. There's crafts as well. People post their crafts on there. So if you like to see like Pinterest type stuff, like it's really that's a part of it too. Is like people who make music on the internet. It's very hard to find people listening to music on FurAffinity. People listen to music there.
Jason just pulled up one of Kamala Harris as a hyena.
That feels a little uncreative. I got it.
Yeah, because she laughs. What? Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of like from The Lion King. I feel like just like if you seeing a black woman and just being like, oh, hyena. That's kind of like, come on, man. Like, I could see that she does laugh. You're right.
I mean, that's
well.
about it.
Maybe that's some of my furry baggage. I'm used to hyenas being black coded, although not always negatively. That's a neat thing about furry art too. Is a lot of like artists of color seeing the way that people have been making their furries or their personas like more like black coded, more Africanized.
Yeah.
The way that people portray their culture and everything, and also non-American furries. There's like Japan has its own kind of separate thing called like the kimono scene, but like the European furry scene is very different. It kind of grew out of the goth scene in the 90s. There, it's more internet focused. It's very different. Like it's a whole universe. Like I could do a whole history thing about it. Honestly, I should do more bonus episodes about furry stuff.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any JD Vance, thank God.
Yeah, nobody. You'd probably find more sexy couch art than you would find JD
There's
Vance art.
sexy Alex Vance from Half-Life.
Yeah, that's a fun thing about FurAffinity too, is when you search, it searches for each keyword separately, so sometimes you get fun combinations like
Yes,
that.
I love it. Yeah, Vance Joestar. Someone's OC based off Joseph Joestar from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Amazing.
That's a very fun one too. Is look up a franchise you're a fan of and see all the weird like OCs that people make. One of my favorites was someone had a character that was a Flareon, like the Pokemon, that was also a member of Nod, the people from Command and Conquer. So it's like a little Pokemon with a robot arm wearing like a fascist military.
Hell yeah! All right.
Hey,
This guy's gonna grow so much Tiberium.
hey, Jason, you should put in Nick Mullen.
Oh, nothing. 0. Oh no.
Okay.
Stavros.
There has to be Stavros.
Yes. Nothing.
That's very
I
surprising.
bet you I spelled his name wrong. Hold on. Stavy baby. Nothing.
That is a shame.
Stop.
If there's
stop?
one
Nothing.
man right now that deserves to be on a furry website,
A panda,
first,
something. Yeah.
Yeah, no, Stav would make a very cute round furry. Like, I
Yes.
could definitely see him as like, I don't know what animal he'd be, but yeah, I mean, I'm biased, obviously.
I think he's a handsome dude no matter what his size. So good on him.
God, we had that fucking missing tooth.
Maybe not with the missing tooth.
Oh,
but
dude, I saw him do stand up New Orleans when he had the missing tooth. It was so fucking fun.
Maybe now I'm kind of picturing him as like a walrus with just one tusk.
Okay.
Like, not as like a fat joke, but just like he has like the way he moves around. So I can picture him as just
Yeah.
like, very energetic, happy, like sort of like a
I can see it.
walrus or something.
Well, get to work.
He's Greek. You associate them with docks, so there you go.
See, okay. See, we got something going here.
Yeah, assigned personas for every member. Of
Oh,
the-
absolutely.
Well, Adam Freeland's already a bug,
I was gonna say, yeah, he's
and Nick Mullen is Diddy Kong from. You guys remember that, right?
I do. Yeah, it's been so
That
long.
is a very funny thing is monkey furries, because monkey furries do exist, and they are kind of like a niche within furries because they're so humanoid that it's like a lot of people don't want to be monkeys because it's like you're there. So like I feel like being a monkey kind of takes, you gotta have moxie to be a monkey furry. I have a lot of respect.
Yeah,
for them.
because like you're so close anyway. What are we doing here? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I'm friends with a donkey furry. I'm like, if you want to be an equine, you choose to be a donkey instead of a horse. Like that shows character. I think that's cool.
Maybe they just saw Shrek too many times. I don't know, but
Maybe that's why they're friends. With
maybe. All right, Jay, are you ready to see something gross that is not from FurAffinity?
All right, yeah, I didn't check this out ahead of time. I wanted to stay on.
Okay, so this is shock.jpg.
And now, the moment you've all been waiting for.
Shock.jpg.
And as many of our listeners know, this is the part of the show where we show you gross shit from around the internet. This one I found, where else? 4chan.
Oh no!
Yeah, and it the header was simply Bruce's fucking food reviews.
All right, let's do
All
this.
right, let's see. I love the video shop watermark, by the way. You gotta love that.
Oh god, this lighting. This is like every unflattering message I've ever received on a dating app.
I don't know what I was going to expect, but
And he cuts the camera too.
He had a setup. He could do like a Matrix slow motion with that thing.
It's a 30-second video of a guy. Hey, it's Bruce's fucking food reviews, and he introduces a burger from Sonic, and then proceeds to show you a video of him fucking it.
I'm not even sure I liked eating the food at Sonic. I don't know if I'd want to fuck it.
Yeah, that's the through line. It's Sonic. There we go.
I didn't even put that. I didn't even put that together. That wasn't even a thought in my mind. But yes, Sonic. Okay.
Yeah, because the joke I had made is we should do something furry related for the thing. So that's actually very perfect. We got some.
It
Sonic
wasn't even. And it wasn't a chili dog, so that's good.
I gotta give this guy some props that he didn't go for the most fuckable fast food, which is Arby's.
You think? Oh well, yeah. Okay.
Because the
roast beef. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I really appreciate that he let the food be the star of the action scenes. Like you really don't even really see him. It's really the burger on display. That takes a lot of confidence to be like.
He's confident enough in the content that it's like, yep, you know me, it's Bruce. We're here to review this burger, but let's get down to business. He doesn't waste any time. It's 30 seconds long, and he's on screen for all of 4 of those seconds. He knows what he's doing. He gets down to business.
I just have a very cursed mental image. Like, there's like this running gag in furry art where people draw dragons fucking cars.
Yes!
And I'm imagining like a dragon who has like a YouTube channel. He's like reviewing cars. He's like, all right, I'm going to review the new Volkswagen. Then he cut to the car. He's like,
He's fucking JD Vancing the fuck out of that fucking minivan. Yeah.
Filling the minivan with a load. Like,
There's that terrible early internet furry art that's like of like a giant horse like fucking a barn. You guys remember this?
No, that is a legitimately funny thing is how humanizing those shock images wound up being, because now everyone knows weird furry art and it's just like a touchstone that people have. Like, it's very funny. I spend more time talking about furry porn with non-furries than I do when I'm hanging out with furries, and it's like, it's great. No, I'm very happy with this niche as kind of like the furry daywalker who's like, okay, I can do weird internet humor, I can be like cool about it, but also I can like talk about it honestly. Like, it's very fun. I like that I'm like the furry that people know to talk to when they need someone who can like talk on the subject.
Yeah, it's an interesting niche you occupy and you wield it well. Yeah, a lot of the furry art that gets stuck in my head is not like the stuff because it's like it's so weird or so gross, but it's almost like surreal outsider art. It's like, what if Ralph Waldo Emerson or whatever the fuck his name was were like a furry? Or shit that just feels super weird, like your old neighbor who like seems to always catch you when you're coming in and out of your car and like wants to talk, and you're like, man, I got shit, I can't do this. I also don't want to talk to you, but I also you're trying to find like, I've got I got food spoiling inside, or you just like,
steaks are on the grill, I gotta go.
But just like I think for me the post 9/11 furry art is a real classic space of weird shit.
That's actually perfect you brought that up, because a couple months ago we did an episode recently on our feed about I did an investigation into that Mistakes in America and I found the original pregnant 9/11 memorial image and I like the background of who made it and everything.
Oh, fantastic.
So like the sincere memorial is like, yeah, it's very like furry art is kind of like lost.jpg all the time, just people being very sincere about things in a way that is just like, oh hon, there's a giant horse dick right next to this on the upload screen. Like, this is not the place for this.
God, when the new Animal Crossing came out and my kids were playing it, and this was when they were all of like 12, and they're like, oh yeah, I got KK Slider, and my brain immediately flashed to a piece of furry art I'd seen.
Yes, I know exactly.
Lose the shorts. Yes. And I had to refrain from saying that in front of my 12-year-olds. Like,
I was thinking about the one like the swole KK Slider.
Yes, the buff KK Slider with the buff villager, where it's very obviously the person can just draw the one buff guy in short shorts.
That's their only thing.
With different heads on them. Yeah.
I love that type of stuff so much. Yeah, I guess like in terms of like the surreally funny stuff like that, like transformation fetish people are just like a very good go-to. Like it's just very funny when it's like a very lovingly detailed thing of like a guy turning into a stack of pancakes. Someone's getting off to this, but to me, it's just like wacky cartoon comedy for me. Like, haha, yeah, that guy did turn into a wheelchair and then get ridden off. That's funny.
and you just try not to think that someone has furiously masturbated to this.
Yeah, or it's like when you search for something on YouTube and the channel. Like the funniest example I said recently was I was looking up a clip from Mrs. Doubtfire, and the clip was from a channel called like Female Mask Lover, and it was all clips of like people wearing female masks in movies. Just the idea of someone getting horny to Mrs. Doubtfire is so funny.
Hello, and your boner just goes. Yeah. Jesus.
Harvey Fierstein's character from that would be such a good fursuit designer. All right, you want 6 tits on this thing? I can do that. You want 8? That's going to be hard. Anything more than that, it's going to have to be a tar, and you're going to have your friend on all fours in the back. I'm sorry, it's the best I can do.
He's the understanding brother who, just.
I'm glad you like your stuffed animal, but I don't need to know that much about it.
I love the idea of Harvey Fierstein just being a wholesome furry who's just, well, he's not even a furry. He's just there to help his friend.
Since his name's Fierstein, I'm imagining him as like a salamander, like the fire
there you
type,
go.
Just like this cute, squat little lizard guy.
I love it. Well, it's about that time of the show. It's called the Breath Mint.
It's time for your mom's favorite part of the show. It's time for the Breath Mint.
Now, Jay, you know you've been on the show before. This is the part of the show where we tell people what we've been getting into this week or recently. And you told me before recording that you were going to be talking about something pretty weird.
Yes.
What do you got?
I'm very excited. I want to talk about this indie PC game called Kenshi. It came out a couple years ago. Yeah, Kenshi. It's Japanese for sword bear, but the developer is from the UK. And what playing it is like when I was in high school, I had a summer and where I just basically every day I just played Morrowind. Like every day I'd wake up and explore this world and build characters and have fun. And I never got to really have that experience again until now. It's like Kenshi has me gaming like I'm a teenager again. Just like every day I go in this little world and my little samurai guy and I just wander. Like the thing about Kenshi is it was a game that was mostly made by like one guy for a lot of its development. It took him like 12 years to make, and he just finished it a couple years ago. And it's like a big world, and it's made in like an early 2000s open source graphics engine, so it feels like a 2000s PC game even though it just came out a couple years ago. There's no narrative, there's no plot. You just pick a starting point for your character and they drop you in this world and you can just do whatever you want. Like you can like wander around and you can just like there's like base building. You can like recruit people and build a base and farm. You can just go on adventures. There's like little dungeons, and it's like really it's like the type of game where your skills get better by using them. So whenever you get your ass kicked in a fight, it's not too upsetting. It's like the bandits will usually just loot you and wander on, and then like a few minutes later, your guy will stand up and start healing, and you're a little strong.
Okay.
It's just very compelling, very deep, very crunchy. Has a lot of jank to it. Like I was shocked that the developer wasn't from like the Ukraine or Eastern Europe. Like this just smacks of Slav jank, and the setting is very weird because it's like post apocalypse. So you're like Mad Max with samurai.
Okay.
So it's and robots. It's just a really weird setting where you'll have like some millennia old robot samurai, and then you'll have like a cool little bug guy with stick legs who's walking around, and then they're fighting a raptor together, and they're wearing tricorner hats. It's just all over the place. It's super weird.
It sounds like playing like really early PUBG in the way where you're just like, this is so janky and odd that I can't stop playing because it like there's some mechanics that work and they're fun. And everything else is just crappy enough that like it doesn't take away. It's kind of maybe like a little broken. Some of the systems don't necessarily meld correctly, but that friction is what makes it interesting.
Yeah, and it's fun to break. Like, it's a game that's very hard, although it is also, like, built in with mod support, so it's one of those games that it has, like, tons of mods, you can completely change it, but, like, it is a very hard game, so it is, like, when you figure out a way to sort of counteract that by doing something, like, the stealth in that game is very unbalanced. It's very fun to just, like, slowly knock out an entire base of guys one at a time, just stuff like that. Like, it really encourages you to, like, think creatively and do stuff. And there's all sorts of fun challenge runs online, like, I made a guy with no arms and no legs and spawned him in the middle of the desert. How long will he survive? Stuff like that. Because yeah, like you can like it has limb-based damage, so you can lose your arms and legs and get like robotic prosthetics to replace them, and it's just like very complicated. You could tell it was something that people spent like a decade working on and iterating on things.
Damn.
It goes on sale pretty regularly. There's a sequel in development, so they're probably going to be, pushing it pretty hard. So yeah, it's if you feel like you're the type of person, like it kind of reminds me of like old RPGs like Gothic. It reminds me a little bit of like I mentioned Morrowind, a little bit of Mountain Blade too, like that sort of like freeform, like make your own fun type thing. Just it's a good laptop game because it's like you can pause it at any time, you toggle speeds. It's like very all menu based, so it's like you don't need like twitch reflexes to play it. It's more about like thinking creatively and fun, coming up with a little narrative.
Yeah, because I've heard it compared to like Dwarf Fortress in that way where the narrative emerges from the gameplay.
Yeah, it's very fun. Like the thing I'm doing now is I'm playing as a robot character, and my thing is that he likes humans, but he doesn't really understand them. And he's trying to kind of like start a little human colony, but they keep starving because it's one of those games you have to feed people, and it's getting that loop of having enough food to keep a colony going is pretty hard at tough. So he's like, humans are weird. Anyways, let me get some more. Like that tweet about feeding stray cats to vultures. Just like I'm just throwing humans at the starving bandits. Yeah, I think it's a PC game, but if it had a console thing, that'd be pretty neat. Yeah,
it is Steam and GOG. Those are the two places you can find it.
Yeah, it's a crunchy ass PC game. Like it's very I can't talk enough sugar about it. If you want to hear me talk more, I guessed it on the Ain't Shit show doing a whole episode about Kenshi a couple weeks ago, so you can look that up.
Right on. So Brian, what do you got for this week's Breath Mint?
I got a couple things. I think I'll go the funner one, which is my girlfriend and I finally got around to watching Abigail.
Oh, I have not seen this yet.
It is a movie I wish I would have seen in theaters. I imagine it would have been a hoot with a live audience because it is from front to back, kinetically, I think one of the most enjoyable films I have seen in a long time.
Okay.
And it's got a small cast. I don't even think it's 10 people. There's no wasted dialogue. It is a tight screenplay. It's executed really well. It's also Agnes Cloud's last role. He's not in it as long as I would hope, but he's great. Yeah, I don't want to give away too much. It's basically a heist movie.
Sadly, the trailers give away the big spoilers. So.
Yeah, but it is a heist movie that turns the concept on its head rather quickly, and there's lots of fun characters. It feels like the sort of movie that if you had given it to a Zack Snyder, it would have been the worst fucking thing in the world. But thankfully, the people that directed it have a little bit more tact. It's just a ton of fun. I can't recommend it enough. It's a hoot.
The two guys responsible, I had to look this up. Matt Belindy-Olpen, former member of the band Link 80, and worked on VHS, and then Tyler Gillett, he worked on Ready or Not. So quite a bit of bona fides there.
Oh yeah, Ready or Not is another movie that kinetically moves very well. That is
Baller.
a movie that does not have any slow spots.
Love that movie.
This VHS movie is like Saturday Night Live for horror. Like, they might not be very good, but a lot of good people come out of them.
There's more hits than misses. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I'm not a big horror person, I will fully admit it. So I've been out of movies for recently. But yeah, I don't want to yuck anyone's time. I like some of the shorts on them. They're pretty cool.
Well, I'm very hyped about Abigail because, I love a quirky movie with a good hook. And this one definitely has that.
The little girl they got to play Abigail just fucking rules. Just amazing.
Alicia Weir, it says.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's more unusual when a child actor isn't good these days. Like, kid actors are really good now. They've,
That's fair.
Like, what if we just stopped traumatizing them so much? What if we just stopped the kids?
Well, there's
and
that.
let them be just actors.
Yeah.
Wow, when they're not going through all the pep pills, they're doing great.
We're not putting them in a closet with a sweaty man-child who we are basing our whole entire network around his ideas.
As a 90s kid growing up in Florida, Nickelodeon had this weird mystique to it. Because, like, I'd been to Nickelodeon studios because Universal and Disney were day trip. And it was kind of like, it was like a part of, like, our day-to-day culture and lives in a way that, like, I get why people have such an interest in it. And I'm glad it's finally being brought to light. Because, the whole reason why they opened those Universal studios in Florida was because they were trying to get away from the unions in Hollywood. They were trying to establish, like, basically what Georgia wound up being. They tried to do that in Florida in the 90s. That's why Disney and Universal had their studios there. And it's like, that's what happens when you, like, all this stuff, like, about the kids getting, like, injured on, like, Legend of the Hidden Temple and stuff. Just there was so much negligence because it was a new field and people were just grabbing at money. It was...
I don't like that. But so, Abigail, there's Giancarlo Esposito is in the movie.
Oh, hell yeah.
He's in it for all of 5 minutes, but
damn it,
what 5 minutes?
And it's all they could afford. That's all they could get it for, is one day.
He sets the stage and he appears later on, and it's fun.
He was going to be in the whole movie, but they had 5 minutes. Like, fuck, we're good, man.
We got what we need. Thanks. Have a good one, man.
Go to a Comic-Con and sign some shit. Bro.
Hold a banana to someone's head. Yeah,
we'll hold down the fort. I guess the less fun thing, but unique thing that I had going on. I'll go through this briefly because I did document the memorial walk from Normandy High School where Mike Brown graduated to Canfield Apartments, where he was murdered by now former Ferguson police officer Darren Wilson. Yeah, it was. I had not done anything related to like documenting like protests or Mike Brown stuff for a number of years, and just was kind of surprised like the number of people that recognized me and people that were like, "Oh, hey, Brian," and I'm like, I don't look like how I did the last time you saw me. And I think it's because I walk with a limp that people are like, yeah, that guy, that ginger that looks like he has gout. Yeah, it's probably Brian. It was an uncharacteristically cool day. This time of year in St. Louis, you're lucky if it's like 90 degrees. That's a cool day this time of year, but it was like, I don't know, a high of 80, for a 5-mile walk through some really interesting neighborhoods in St. Louis. Not as brutal as it's been in the past. I guess what I took from it was that not enough has changed on the wider scope as far as police brutality and institutional racism and all of those fun words. But what is of value is that through this hardship, through all the tear gas, all the bullshit, there is a community of individuals that is pretty tight and kind of special. It's a weird thing to be like, oh yeah, isn't this so great? We're all trauma bonded together. That was a thing after covering Ferguson that was tough, was trying to deal with people that didn't really know what was actually going on, that like thought that all of Ferguson was just like a crater because of the riots, when it's like, no, they burned down like a Quick Trip and like an O'Reilly's Auto Parts and a beauty store. Like it's a dozen structures over a year, which, considering how much law enforcement agitated and terrorized people, I feel like that's a pretty low amount of structures to be burned down. And really, if we're going to get nitpicky, probably half of those structures were burned down by law enforcement anyways. So
yeah, and then it's property, it's insured, like that's what businesses do. Like nobody was really hurt from that. It was an act of protest. Like obviously people could have been, it was but yeah. And I your pictures were very good. Like it was a real treat to get to see them throughout the day on Twitter, and just like seeing how many people were there, the art they had out. Just it was genuinely very moving to see how many people were still out there and still keeping it all going.
Yeah, it's thank you. I was a little rusty, but I felt like I got a couple photos I'm really proud of. Ran into some media people I hadn't seen in a while, and I guess like on like a personal professional note, it is weird to be like, yeah, I was one of the first photographers to cover this story, and no one like reached out to me for an interview or for like licensing. But like I ran into a guy a couple of weeks ago photographing a concert who also covered Ferguson, but he is a much more tenacious self-marketer. And I like asked him if he was going to be down for the 10th anniversary, and he's like, probably not. Like I'm doing something with the kids. But he's like, but all my stuff's going to be in like all these documentaries and all these articles and all this shit on CBS. And I'm like, cool. I'm trying to figure out how I'm like going to pay the power bill this month. Like, that's like the other weird thing of like, for me is like, oh, I got all this trauma and all of these like bad feelings that kind of linger from time to time and swell up. But I don't have the paycheck.
I was going to say, and for what? Yeah.
Yeah. Like I did like, it made my life really hard for a number of years because I would like have to like work what I would call a civilian job. And then people would find out that like I covered Ferguson, and boy, I had like worked these oddly conservative jobs because that's the only work I could get because my skill set was so skewed to photography and stuff like that. And I remember working with one guy who I'm fairly certain went on to kill his wife.
Oh Jesus!
If he hasn't yet, it's
every office has one.
Every office has a wife. The office wife.
Yeah. Well, that is going to be murdered by someone in that office. Yeah.
But boy, I just had to like really eat my fucking lumps for having done that. Talking with people and reminiscing about good times and bad times was kind of something I realized I had been missing in my life for a while, and I kind of left there. There's a certain heaviness, being at Canfield and all that, and being with the family. But again, like we're all kind of trauma. Like we all fucking ate tear gas. We all fucking got maced. We all watched the cops lie, and that's like something like people can't really take. That unity of we saw a truth that the world doesn't understand. And we've all been struggling to try to get it out there. And sometimes it resonates. People listen. It travels on the wind. And sometimes it just kind of stays with us.
Can I tell a little personal story I think ties into that really nicely?
Yeah, would you?
Go for it.
I went to high school at Stanton College Preparatory School, which was like the #1 rated high school in America when I applied to it. Like it was super prestigious. I flunked out of it. I had a lot of trouble because I didn't know I was autistic at the time. I actually just learned that last year. And so basically, I'm in my mid-20s and I'm working at a Target. and I'm doing the shelves, and a guy like is walking by, and he doubles back, and he turns around, and he goes, "Oh, hey Jay, is that you?" And I'm like, "Me?" And he's like, "Yeah, we went to Stanton together." And I'm talking. He recognized me, and we're talking, and he goes, and he's like, "Why do you work here?" basically, and he's like, "Oh, I'm an engineer for ExxonMobil now," and he's talking about the work he does and like how much he gets paid and everything. And like later on that day, I was really depressed at first because I was thinking about like how all these people I worked with like went on to have these really successful lives, and I didn't. But then I thought more, and I was like, I wouldn't want to work for ExxonMobil though. They fucking suck and they're destroying the planet. Like, and like they're like they're a horrible company. And I was like, the type, like if I hadn't lived the life I did to get me there, I probably would have wound up like that. And my attitude is like the things you go through change you, and even if like they don't material benefit you, like you grow from them. And like I've never gotten to go through the things you did because I'm autistic, so like I get overwhelmed. Like if I went to a protest, I'd probably just start crying and fall down or something. Like I wouldn't be much use for anyone.
Oh, those people showed up. Don't worry.
Yeah, they have the rickshaws for them. Although I am definitely the minority in that. I know a lot of furries who've done a lot of political activism over the years and are very good at it. And it's always very cool when you see people in fursuits at protests.
Yeah, I was going to say like a lot of online hacktivism.
Yeah, I always feel like, oh, that's the person that brought the fertilizer bomb.
Well, I was thinking like, the ones who are, hacking.
Yeah, the gay furry hackers that keep, as they call themselves, that keep blowing stuff up. Yeah, I know a lot of activists are. Speaking of furry hackers, like when you mentioned about your jobs, one thing I really love about working for Fred is this is one job I can't get fired from no matter what I post for.
Fair enough.
Like, if anyone complains about it, he's just gonna like post artwork of fat raccoons at them until he leaves them alone.
Yeah, like you're like living your own niche's version of like Nick Mullins. Like, what can I get fired from?
I don't have the Patreon doing it, but I have like a friend I work for, and it's like, yeah, I'm very blessed to have this. Sincerely, it's so cool. I'm really glad to be back here. I always have fun when I come on.
Fucking A, man. So on a less depressing note, well, more, I guess, depending on who you are, my breath mint for this week is my kids insisted we watch Despicable Me 4.
Okay.
I can tell by the awkward silence that neither of you give a shit about Despicable. Yeah,
I've seen like half the Despicable Me movies. So I'm more than most childless adults, I imagine.
My kids are 14 now, and they've been watching Despicable Me their whole lives at this point, because those movies have been around since.
Like a weird kind of like kid nostalgia where it's like, wow, I can't believe I used to like this when I was 6.
But they still said, well, we should probably watch it. And here's the thing about Despicable Me. Here's the thing about Illumination. Their movies aren't necessarily bad.
Yeah, they're fine. Like
they always hit this kind of middle of the road, lowest common denominator vibe. The Minions themselves becoming a boomer meme is always endlessly amusing to me. It's like this was like some French pervert who just decided that like the Minions were a thing that they should make. And it's Steve Carell is clearly phoning it in at this point, and it's fine. He does the I'm Gru. I'm doing it's the Gru time. It's Gru.
Oh, stepbrother, why are you stuck in the washing machine?
And they bring back Russell Brand's Dr. Nefario character, but that's unfortunate. But he doesn't have any lines, and so it's just the character. He doesn't say anything. It's like, well, yeah, here's the character, but Russell Brand doesn't get to.
I've never seen the Despicable Me movies, but I imagine I'm going to take a wild guess here that if the Russell Brand character had any lines, it would be about how vaccines are not real, and it's not. And it's not really if you pay for it.
No.
His character is like a mad scientist. It's like the tech guy.
I've created a new type of...
No.
God. I have added more autism to the vaccine.
That's now everyone's going to have a Sonic OC.
That's what makes the Minions yellow is they got an overload of autism. But anyway,
many such cases.
they're polyglots. All the Minions speak a mixture of different languages. In Despicable Me 4, there are a few funny running bits. The Minions, of course, one of whom gets trapped in a vending machine. And so in the background of like 3 or 4 different scenes, there's just this Minion in a vending machine being tortured by other Minions. I always love shit like that. you can't make a whole movie out of it, but here's a scene or two with a fun little bit. Gru has a kid now, his own, not the adopted daughter's. So Gru Jr., who loves his mom but hates the dad. But then, of course, because it's a kid's movie, throughout the course of the movie, he learns to love the dad and all that. But the whole idea is that Gru is now on the run from a supervillain played by Will Ferrell doing the fucking Megamind voice, but with a weird accent. So it's like, oh, but it's not exactly Megamind. His name is Maxime Lamal. Yes, that's right. Maximum Bad. It's full of dumb decisions like that. But at the same time, I mean, it's a Despicable Me movie. You know what you're getting when you go in. It does what it says on the tin. There's not really anything surprising. The Pharrell music is decent. The voice acting is what it's always been. And, it's a good time at the movies. Don't go in expecting Shakespeare and you're fine. And as always, the Minions outshine the rest of the cast because that's by design. But you can't make a whole movie out of that. And believe me, they've tried. It was called Minions and it was terrible. Because they glossed over where the Minions were
during World War II.
That's even better. They didn't gloss over it. They explicitly show that they couldn't have done it.
That's right. They're frozen in ice. Yes, they're
because we have photographic proof that they do not do that. That's what we need. We need Grok to make that for us now. That's what they do
when I was messing around with the Microsoft AI, my favorite thing was trying to get the best image of Drake praying at a Shinto temple with minions. And I got a couple that were good. I lost them on my Switch phones, unfortunately. They didn't all get replicated to the cloud. But at least my photos of Drake eating Chinese food out of toilets at basketball games, those survived.
Those, I think, are a reason for AI to have ever existed. Granted, I want it shut down now, but just so that we could have had those.
I like over a half a year before the Kendrick Lamar and Drake drama hit its peak, I was already, we fucking did the Big Ghost episode just because I wanted to talk shit
about how Drake was
Jimmy.
baby soft.
How he's baby soft, you know what I'm saying? Jeez. My hatred of Drake,
it goes way back.
It's a deep thing.
Yeah.
Because you don't know this, Jay, but I worked a warehouse job where every single time these guys listened to the radio I worked with, every single time a song came on, I'm like, this is the worst thing I've ever heard. It was always Drake.
God, yeah, I hate the shared radio experience like that at a workplace.
Yeah, I mean, like everything else that was getting played, like it was fine. Like I actually found some shit I liked. But every single time we'd be working, I'm like, this is like the softest shit. Like this is like a Sarah McLachlan commercial, but if it were hip hop. And like, oh, it's Drake.
This is music for us to work to, not music to cry into a pillow to. Like, come on.
When you're upset when your girlfriend smiles at you kind of music.
Jesus, yeah, you're right. Fuck.
That is brutal.
But it's fair.
Why is she happy? Because I don't ever make her happy.
Shit. Oh, God. Yeah.
Fuck.
Well, this is the part of the show where we tell people where to find us online. Jay, since you are our guest, tell the good folks on the old internet where to find you on the web.
Great. Well, I'm Jay Brandstetter pretty much everywhere. I'm still using Twitter. I have my podcast, I'm From the Internet. I co-host it with Winslow Dumaine. He's a very funny comedian. He blew up the rat hole in Chicago, so if you saw that on the news, yeah, that's the thing. He specifically asked the news not to call him, and that's what his title card was. Like,
perfect.
A very good bit, I will admit, but yeah, and it's very good. It's based on the Something Awful forums, and each episode we focus on a saga, or more recently we're doing mini-sodes where we focus on more abstract concepts or posters. Like we did one on Rib Kid, and we talked about face blindness. Oh, that was very fun. Okay. Yeah, little things like that. But we also do more big sagas. Like if you're a new listener, I'd say our drugs episodes are definitely our best. The steroids and phenazepam are both.
Phenazepam, I was going to say, yeah. Did you do the juice? Yes.
A lot of people say that's our best episode. It's so yeah, it's a very accessible one. Also, I'm writing a book, which is fun. I haven't written fiction since high school, but I've been on a creative kick lately. So I'm finishing up the rough draft right now. It's going to be about 60,000 words. It's basically like Star Fox with war crimes, but it's like a personal story too. It's going to be weird. I don't know if anyone's going to like it, but it feels cool to make something that like I feel like only I could.
Fuck yeah, dude. You have a link tree on the Twitter, so that's a good place to find the rest of your links.
Yeah, Jay Brandstetter at Twitter, and then my link tree is on there. I have like a YouTube channel. I don't really update anymore, but I used to do video essays. I have like older podcasts too. I make a bunch of stuff, and yeah, just check it out. There's fun things, and yeah. So if you're listening to this and you're curious about furry stuff or whatever, feel free to send me a message. I'm cool to talk about stuff like that. I have links to my Persona art if you're curious about what my panda looks like. I'm always happy to talk about him.
So Brian.
Oh, where can they find me?
Yeah, please.
If you want to send me death threats or tell me what you think my fursona would be.
Weasel.
I don't know about that. What do you think, Jay?
Gosh, when I know people, it's awkward because it's like, oh, I don't want to give them something that's not cool, but also it's like, I'll have to think on that. Hey, maybe that's a good excuse for me to come back another
Perfect.
time. That's my homework.
There we go.
I'll come up
There
with
we go.
Year's Persona test.
Okay. Where else can they find you?
Yeah, if you want to do all that, you can. I'm iShotGuidibord on Twitter. That's ISHOTGUIDBORD. If you want to find me on Instagram, I am a music photographer. If you want to check out my portfolio, it's Asshole Music Photographer. And check this out. You won't believe it. If you want to check out some photos with some words, you go over to musicphotographer.com. If you want to check out what is quite literally the last only good media website left in St. Louis, go over to the artsstl.com. I got my soft cult and my oval peck photos up there. There's some really good shit there from some other folks. I haven't had the time to check recently, but I know there is because fuck, man, we got people everywhere. We got shooters out there.
Yeah.
We got literally and figuratively, we got shooters
yeah.
out there. And yeah, I think that's it. Jason, where can they tell you the go yourself?
Oh boy, you can do that very thing on Twitter and various other places as Video Crime, VIDEOCRIME. Most of the time, if there's a video crime, that's going to be me. With the notable exceptions of TikTok, Instagram, those two places, I am Laser Goose CEO. That's laser with an S because I know how to spell. You can also find me as part of a menagerie of international weirdos on a show they like to call Submitted for the Approval of the Midnight Pals. There, I play a fictionalized version of horror author Stephen King. Yes, that's right. It's me, Stephen. And we're doing season 2 coming up in October. I'm very excited. We have a musical episode in season 2. That's going to be at midnight-pals.simplecasts.com. If you want to contact the show for whatever reason, give us a call, 314-246-9766. Be like Jay and leave us a voicemail about what your favorite slur is, for example. If you want to shoot us an email, that's Jason at 48minutesofdogsbarking.com or Brian with a Y at 48minutesdogsbarking.com. Support the show, patreon.com/48minutesofdogs. There we do a weekly post-show hangout that we like to call Thanks, I Hate It. New episodes pop up every Friday. Get yourself in on any of the paid levels, gets you that. But if you get the $10 level, if there's 10 of you, by the end of the year, you get to hear the 90-minute commentary track on the Japanese puke porno video, Garo Monster Home Delivery. We're at 3. We got to get to 10. But you know what?
We're
going to do it.
There.
We're just going to do it. We're just going to do it.
I still think we just got to
record it and just hold it until
hold it until we get to 10.
Well, if you want to do that thing, once again, patreon.com/48minutesofdogs. Well, that about does it for the program. As we always say at this time, namaste, good luck, give mommy a good gut fucking, eat the knife, and say goodnight, Jay.
I love being strong.
Cheers, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jay.